that working now? Hi. There are two people on the live stream. Welcome. Holy crap.
Oh, we're live.
We are live. Hey, what do you reckon? Play the music.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I love the music. Is it this one? I can't remember. Well, welcome to the Wheelhouse. As is tradition, we're an hour and 21 minutes late. We were hoping to go live at 9 a.m. this morning. I was here at 7:45 to make sure that we did go live this morning at the correct time, and yeah, we didn't.
Excuse the technical difficulties.
But do you know what we've done today? We have a multicam set up. We don't have our colours matched, but look at this. You can look at us from different angles. You can go look at the boards, and you can go around here and do that. And like, we're figuring this out. We're not there yet, but if you're on the live stream, you can chat to us in real time. We also have low latency, so I'm now pumping through broadcasting software. So I'm now watching other thingamajigs do thingamajigs. But all that aside, what we're here to do today is we're here to talk cars, car culture, Haas. There's a lot of big news.
Ooh, Haas, yeah.
I want to be honest. I want to go out of the gates. Gunther, out.
So much
Gone.
to talk about.
Ousted.
Let's-
Unexpected. I think
Unexpected.
I don't know. I think it's very unexpected because I think everyone loved him so much, and I think maybe we overlooked like his performance as maybe a team principal because of that. Because when it came out that he was gone, I had that sort of took me by surprise.
I was horrified because he's such a big character on there.
Yeah.
Well, for those who don't know, we're talking F1. We're talking the Haas F1 team.
Yep, which is the American F1 team, I guess you could say.
Yep, owned by Gene Haas.
Yeah, and Gunther Steiner, if you haven't seen Drive to Survive, is probably one of the larger personalities.
And he's out.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah.
And so Mr. Gene Haas himself, who is the man with the money, and it's Haas Automation, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And you're also getting a little bit of Ipswich Road background jingle there. So if you can hear those lovely ambulances.
They've become a staple.
Look,
We asked
I've
them
got
to
to
do a
be
drive-by
honest.
for the start.
Yeah, whenever it's like how people get the Air Force to fly over. So what we get is we like to
The
thank,
21 cop salute.
Yeah, we like to thank our public services.
Yeah.
So we give them a little salute. as they
Brisbane's
go
finest.
past. Brisbane's finest.
Yeah.
Running them to the Mater, Royal Brisbane,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
those wonderful hospitals up Ipswich Road. Anyway, back to Formula
Yeah,
One.
so look, Formula One, it's a savage industry, right? It's a savage sport. There's
Massively.
so much money at stake. We were talking just earlier before the podcast started about how much money Haas spends, right? And I think you were saying, Rory, it's one of the biggest
No,
teams.
I think Scott might have
Scott,
said
you were
that.
saying it's one of the
Yeah,
highest
well, we had
budgeted
that.
teams, right?
We had that, didn't
And-
we? We heard and see Gibbo can bring it up too, but
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it up.
Well, they're
Okay.
what? They're hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, they said they're 5 to 10% under the salary cap.
Yeah.
All right, let's have a look. How much? Oh,
And when
Haas
you're in
will
that-
reach its cost cap in 2023.
Yeah.
Ooh.
When you're at that level,
That's
there's so many
big bananas.
investors and stakeholders and people you got to report to. And let's be honest, Haas has had some shining moments, but they just haven't.
Few and far between.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
haven't.
Really,
They
as a
haven't
team.
progressed in the right direction.
Look, they haven't, and they've been. Look, in my most humble of opinions, a bit of a comedy circus.
Yep.
And not really viewed as a serious team because
No.
they have and when you think about things with Gunther and the boat and some of the stupid stuff they were doing for promo, you look at that.
IKEA ads.
Oh, and look, it was hilarious. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the comedy. But when you go, are we a world-class team or are we a three-ring circus? I think it's the latter.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if you look at sort of the history of Formula One, you got to have a combination of everything to make it right. They haven't had star drivers. We all know that they had a Russian driver for a while, Mazepin.
Spin, yeah.
And
Mazza money.
Yeah.
Mazza the big bucks, and you can drive F1. And
That's right. So oligarch, was paying the dollars there. That didn't go anywhere, and he didn't really deliver. They've had some lackluster drivers. Unfortunately, Mick Schumacher didn't really, deliver what they wanted. I thought he did okay, but not. He was just okay, I think.
I think the problem for Mick is he throws it away. Like he costs more than I think
Yeah,
brings.
he was spending a lot of money with getting the cars fixed.
Getting the cars fixed, yeah.
And then you've got, car development and everything else. So I don't think he was on top of it. Who was saying, we're talking about the reporting line leadership up, about how Gunter was the one reporting everything back to Gene.
Yeah, so unlike a lot of the other teams, Gunter was probably more like Toto Wolff than he was like, I guess like Alpine or Ferrari and that sort of thing, where Gene is the owner of Haas Automation and Haas F1, but Gunter sort of had free reign across the whole team, almost like a team principal and like a GM almost. So he was choosing strategies and people in the teams and drivers with really no challenge, because I mean you can imagine what Gene Haas has going on outside of F1.
Yep.
He doesn't want calls every day about which young driver they should be looking at. He just wants someone to make that decision and for it to work. And it hasn't worked. And Gunter's been there for a lot longer than he's easy, like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, quite
And
from the start.
I think it's
pretty
closer
much.
to 8 years. I think it was 7 or 8 years when I was
See, that's way too.
catching up on that. That's a long stint.
And that they've never. I don't think they've ever top fived.
Mm.
No, they're arse end every time.
Yeah, they had 1 or 2 years where they were doing okay, but yeah, it hasn't. And if you look at what it takes in Formula One, there's always been bottom end runners.
Yep.
There's always
But
been
they change.
midfield runners. Well, I mean,
Or
back in the
unless
day,
they fall off.
back in the day, you had the teams like Minardi, and they were always at the bottom.
Yep.
Those teams they were just there for fun. I think they just knew that they had the small budgets and everything. But these days we are seeing change. But I still think we see change if, the bottom runner might become the second or third bottom, and then back down to the bottom again. You don't really see too much going from bottom to mid to or mid to top maybe. But
it's because of the salary cap was introduced
yeah, to change that.
to combat that.
But it's such a savage sport, because you could have a car that's competitive at the start of the season, and then the development rates of McLaren and Ferrari and Red Bull is so extreme that by the 4th race, you're no longer...
Well, look at Aston Martin.
Yeah, Aston Martin. Look at...
Start of last year's season, they were a top 3 car.
Yeah.
They were on podium.
That's right.
Every race.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then as development caught up, they fell by the wayside. Admittedly, they were developing too, and rumour was that they put an update on the car that
Went
put
the
the
wrong
car
way.
went the wrong way.
Yeah.
It wasn't the better, so I had to get rid of that. The
Mm,
car got a
start
little bit
again.
better and then start again. But still,
Well, the perfect example is that the Braun in 2009, right? They came
Oh, yeah.
They came in guns a-blazing, and then by the end of the season, they had been caught up and overtaken.
well, what is it, within after the 8th race,
Yep.
they didn't win
They didn't
another.
win another
they
race.
didn't win another race after the 8th race.
Yeah. And actually, Rory brought up there's a documentary on Disney,
Yeah, Disney Plus.
which Jensen Button was involved in, and it is incredible about that 2009 season. So it's definitely...
It's called Brawn GP.
I have seen ads for this. I would love to watch
It
it.
is incredible.
It's made very well.
That's the one
Is
with
it
Keanu Reeves.
Michael Jordan
Correct, yeah.
levels
Yes.
of
Yeah.
epic?
Yep,
Yeah.
they've got everyone.
They've got Keanu
I get
Reeves as the
chills
host.
thinking of the music
Yeah,
from...
they've got everyone.
Endgame.
Like they bring in. I don't even understand. I would hate to have seen the budget. Like they got Bernie Eccleston.
Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, they Luca de Montezemolo.
The God.
Yeah. So they've got
Yeah.
they bring everyone back into the fray.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like other drivers, Mark Webber's in there, and
What I love about Luca de Montezemolo on the documentary, he's still
bitter.
he's still bitter about how he thinks that they were cheating at the start, and
Yeah.
it was wrong. And this was 15 years ago now.
Yeah, it was just crazy. So for people listening who maybe weren't always F1 fans or aren't F1 fans, in the 2009 season,
Correct. Yeah.
there was leading into that season, it was Honda.
They pulled out.
The GFC was hitting, and they said we don't want to spend the money in F1, but they'd already developed a car, and a guy by the name of Ross Brawn, who was I guess the original Adrian Newey, like
Yep.
the ultimate sort of god car developer and aero specialist. He knew that the car was good, so to cut a long story short, they ended up making a deal where it became Brawn GP, and he sort of bought the team.
And they had no engine supply.
And they had no
'cause
engine. Then all the
Honda
other
went out.
teams banded together to be like, no, we want this, like fight for the little guys. Like we should have these guys on the grid. And they gave them an engine.
Mercedes engine.
Yeah, it was a Mercedes engine. They put a Mercedes engine in there and they're all like, we need to keep these guys on the grid. And they missed the first testing and then they get to the second testing. And the famous line was Jensen took the car out for a lap. And before that, the figures were saying their car was like 2 seconds faster. And they were like, oh, we've made a mistake. But they went there. Jensen put a lap in, comes back, and he's like, front end sucks. Car's got no stability. It's useless. Like, it's no good.
Yeah.
We've got so much work to do. They're like, oh, well, you're second overall. And he's like, that's not possible. He's like, there's no way the car's like a bag of bolts. And they said, well, it's true. Anyway, things went on. None of the teams believed that they were that fast. They thought they were doing dodgy stuff with the car to make it look fast so they could get sponsors, because the car was an F1 car with not a single sponsorship. It was just a white F1 car. And they got to the first Grand Prix, which was the Australian Grand Prix, and he qualified like 1.4 seconds faster than anyone else. And then every team instantly went from being like supporters of this little team that's managed to come in to feed them to the wolves.
And the history in Formula One, so I've been watching, for those who know, I've been watching Formula One for a very long time, and every testing season, 90s, 2000s, a small running team would bring a very lightweight car to testing, and they would do a really good lap time, and then everyone would be like, oh, it's, Prost GP or Minardi is going to be a front runner this year, and it was just because they bought a very underweight car and they needed sponsorship money.
Put no fuel in it.
Yeah, exactly. So it would always happen, and when that happened with Braun, I remember thinking, no. These guys are they're not a real contender.
No, because they didn't even have one sponsorship.
No, and the funny story is that when the Mercedes engine arrived,
It didn't fit.
It didn't fit. They had to drill holes for it to fit so it was a real botch job, and they only had 2 cars.
And it was so fast. But then it was, the crazy part is the reason they got away with it is everyone. So it had, they found a loophole where they made 2 diffusers. They made a diffuser within a diffuser. It's called a double diffuser. And the rule books didn't say that you couldn't have it, which means you can have it. And all the teams thought that that's the way they did it. They had a double diffuser. What I didn't realize or didn't remember is they weren't the only ones with a double diffuser, and that wasn't why it was fast.
Yeah, that's right. So, what the thing was, the diffuser requires a hole in there to insert the device to start the engine, and they used that hole for aero to create the double diffuser. But there was a lot of other things with the car that was really good.
Because there was 2 other teams that had the double diffuser, and they were useless. So then the teams put a double diffuser on, didn't really improve, and then started to learn. And by mid-season, the Brawn were no good, and the other teams were just rocket ships.
Yeah, that's right. So it should have been Sebastian Vettel's year, but thankfully it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the awesome thing about F1 is the past is littered with, things that are happening even today. For example, Max's dominance right now. It's happened many times in the past.
Yeah, it happens like every 10 years almost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And in the past, Formula One has changed the rules of the sport to curb. The perfect example was in the 0-0s, Mark Schumacher was racing away with world championships, and the points for first was 10, 6 for second, and they changed that to 10 for first, 8 for second, because they were like, man, people coming second are still so far behind.
Yep.
So they wanted to give them a chance, and then that didn't work, and then they changed the rules completely, and Ferrari they got caught out. That's not happening now as much with, say, Max's dominance.
No.
So I think that we're going to see, unfortunately, another.
Well, every now and then you get the ultimate car with the ultimate driver.
That's right. Yep.
Michael in the
Ferrari.
F2000 series, Ferraris. You had Lewis in the early 10s, like the W13 and that.
14, 15, 16, 14, 15,
Mercedes,
17, 18,
and now you've got Max in the 2020 edition, Red Bulls. But it's like a lot of people fell out of love before Drive to Survive with F1 because of Lewis's and Mercedes' dominance, which I was definitely one of them. Unfortunately, I stopped watching F1 at the start of the 2016 season.
Big
because
mistake.
I saw Lewis winning and I was like, it's just going to be like 2014, 2015. In actual fact, that ended up being a really good season. Mercedes ran away with it, but it was a good battle between the two
It was
drivers.
a great year.
And then 2017, it was like Lewis and Valtteri.
Yep.
But Valtteri was always a few steps behind. He was close though.
Yep.
Now, my biggest gripe is, look, I'm by no means a Red Bull supporter. I actually fucking hate Red Bull racing. I'm a big Ferrari supporter. My gripe is that, I love the drinks though. That's my problem.
As we're here smashing them for
I
breakfast.
actually love Red Bull.
Funding the F1 team.
Wheelhouse, brought to you by Red Bull.
Red Bull. I actually love like almost everything else they do. I just can't stand the management behind Red Bull Racing, and how they just burn drivers, and they seem to make drivers unlikable, and then they leave Red Bull and they're really likable. But the issue I have now is that they don't want someone competing against Max, mainly because they like Max dominating. I think also because they realise that
He's their ticket.
Max is extremely hot-headed. I don't think he competes well with competitive teammates. It's extremely evident that he doesn't compete well with a fierce teammate. And they don't want to control that, so they just need someone who's reasonably okay who can bank points.
Yep.
Which means that you don't even have Red Bull versing each other. When we had Mercedes, apart from 1 year, 2020, there was always a bit of competition. Like Lewis wouldn't always put it on pole. Lewis wouldn't always win. He would win most, but there would be someone who he was having to kind of drive against in the other garage. Yeah, Red Bull definitely don't have that now. Checo Perez is, for like a couple of races, he was okay. He's so far off the pace that it's not even it's a crapshoot. Max is so far ahead of everyone else. Like, he's breaking records left, right, and center, and everyone's saying, he's the greatest ever because of the records he's breaking. Yeah, it's because it's a one-man band.
Exactly.
He doesn't have a teammate who's like making him fight, putting the thing in his motion, being like, why, I guess what happens to the drivers when their teammate's fast is they think they all want to be number one, and they're like, why is he almost as fast as me? Yeah. What's he getting that I'm not? And they start to overthink
it's
themselves
so many times in the
past. This he doesn't have to worry. He's literally he's chilling. He's virtually out there on his phone half the race. I reckon he's doing
Well, I think that comes back to also Red Bull's history when they had Mark Webber and Vettel. And both of those guys were trying to be the number one driver. And they would race each other and crash and take them both selves out of the race. So I think they maybe...
And they had that with Ricciardo and Verstappen too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Verstappen hated that Ricciardo was actually faster than him. Yeah. Because they both
learned from those lessons.
Ricciardo and Max like their car identical. So they built the car to Max, and very few people can drive Max's car because it's very nosy, very twitchy. But that's what Daniel Ricciardo likes. So he came in and he was like, boom, I can
drive this.
And Max hated it. And then every other teammate that put in there, Pierre Gasly, see you later. Alex Albon, see you later. Checo Perez is going to be ousted for sure.
Well, he's always had the money coming in, the Mexican
which is fine until you're winning.
Money. Yeah, exactly.
You don't need the money when you're winning.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favourite examples of that competition, I was at Silverstone in 2010, and it was the famous, during testing, they bought 2 new wings, and I think Sebastian ruined his, and they took the new wing off Mark Webber's car and gave it to Sebastian, and it pissed off Mark Webber, and he won that race. And the famous lines, he crossed the finish line, and he goes, not bad for a number 2 driver. And I thought that was a great little I want to see that. So I always say my favourite years have been 2016, 2007. And if you're an F1 fan and you haven't seen those seasons, there's some great reviews that go for quite a length. They're like 20, 30, 40-minute reviews of that season that you must watch because they're absolutely crackers. 2010 was another great one because right up to the end it was Webber, Alonso and Vettel. That's what you want to see, right?
I think Vettel came out. He did an interview. I can't remember where he did the interview, and they asked him who's the fastest driver he's ever had as a teammate.
Yep.
And he said it was Webber. He said Webber would get in his head, get in his own head, and would ruin his own weekends. But he said Webber on his day was probably easily the most untouchable driver he's ever raced against. Yeah. But he was too He'd always think there's like outside sources tampering, making
Yeah,
him
right.
slower and affecting the car, and this is why he's getting
Bit
the
like
benefit.
Lewis.
Yeah, a lot like Lewis actually.
Yeah.
Lewis always thinks the world's fucking against him, which is, to be honest, has made me very much not a Lewis fan
No.
in recent years.
I
Now,
never was.
I'm going to have to wind you guys back in here because we started this conversation about Gunter. Now, while you guys have gone all the way down the rabbit hole of Formula One,
Yep.
I wasn't aware of this, but there has actually been an appointment of a new team principal at Haas. I'm not sure if you've caught that. So I hope I do this justice. Ao Komatsu,
yep.
so former trackside engineering chief, will be the new team principal. But I don't think these are as good as Rory's hot takes because this is somebody else's hot take and I'm just stealing it. Thank you, motorsportmagazine.com. They have made the suggestion that with the skyrocketing value of teams and Andretti's interest in making their way in, because has that all been solidified? Or is
Yeah,
that
but
still
Andretti have been
dancing?
they've been confirmed in
They're confirmed
By
in?
FIA, but not by Formula One.
Not by Formula One.
not by Formula One, but
So,
they may take.
can you see where this might...
See, it annoys me because I want that. So, in the FIA rulebook, there is allowed to be 26 cars on the grid at maximum.
Yep.
Which means that that's a room for 3 more teams. Now the teams get antsy because they're like, and there's less money for
Yeah,
us.
dilution of the teams.
I was like,
How
yeah,
exciting
but
would that be?
adding 3 teams means bringing more money.
Yeah, my
Yep.
suggestion would be, won't that bring in more money?
Yeah.
It's like the pie doesn't get smaller with more competition.
No.
Well, I think
And
they're
more
still thinking
sponsors.
back to the Bernie Eccleston days, who was very much, that's all my money and you get a little bit. Where that's changed
Yeah.
now. Because Bernie was very much like the pie is the biggest for me.
Yeah.
And
It's my pie, and you can have some of the.
yeah,
costs.
and the teams had to all get together to say we're leaving to
Yeah.
get a bit more of the pie. But that's changed now. That's
Yeah.
with
That's
him
also
gone.
harking back to that Braun GP documentary. It goes from following Braun to following that year was the year when the teams were leaving.
Teams
It was
association.
almost, if
Right.
you guys remember, IndyCar had a big falling out with IndyCar and Champ Car, and a lot of the
Yeah,
teams
okay.
separated, and so you had the IndyCar series and the Champ Car series in America.
Right.
Yep.
You almost had that with F1. You almost had F1, and then you had like another offshoot, which would have had all the good versions of F1, and F1 would have been like an also ran.
Yeah, far
But
out.
it never happened, so I think that people are still caught up in that. But
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if Gene does decide to pull out of Haas.
'Cause
Admittedly,
it can't be great for business because
or I was going to say Haas Automation is probably one of the few companies involved in F1 that benefits probably a lot.
a lot, do you reckon?
Because people know Haas now as a Formula One team, and if you're
Yeah.
looking at like sticker cutters and printing machines
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
rollers, and you
Yeah.
see Haas, you're
and,
like,
and
oh,
you now know what it is.
you're like Haas. That's
yeah, that's that company.
yep.
But yeah, they've probably got their money's worth out of it and they could just focus on their main game now.
Especially because Andretti will be.
And if you get a bulk cash out
Mm-hmm.
rather than just pissing it into the wind for a circus, tell you what, that's a pretty good commercial decision. Go get the fuck out, maximum dollars, see you later, let somebody else, because he's ridden the drive to survive.
Yep.
Yeah.
As a commercial operator, I'd go, mate, we're at the top. I bought low, I can
Yeah.
sell high,
Exactly.
I can get out.
Yeah.
And if you look at it purely as an operator,
All the
that-
teams are worth so much more
that's a
massive.
cracking gamble, and then that huge chunk of money. Imagine what you could do with that if you took that out of the most expensive fucking sport in the world.
Yep.
Like you could go, like imagine what you could do with that pile of
Yeah, yeah,
resources.
exactly.
And if you diversified into a few other things, and you had Haas FMX team
now. Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and you imagine the money. There's a really sensible business case in there, and because Andretti's excited as well, and I would have to
And
say
good
that
too.
and you know, you think about Gene and that, you'd just be fucking exhausted
Yeah.
with the shit show of that isn't your main game.
But you
So-
raise a good point there around how lucrative is this for companies. For Haas, it would be. But I think, what about for an automotive seller? Like, for example, a Mercedes or a Renault or whoever, how much... Because if you go back to the 2000s and before, technology from F1 we would see in road cars.
Yeah.
And not, one-off cars, but like when the BMW joined Formula One, you started seeing V10s in production cars and F1 technology coming down into, But now F1 technology is so complex, you don't see it in road cars anymore. You would see it in hypercars or very one-offs that they do, or hybrid, But I don't think you see it as much in...
I think the sell is that, like, Mercedes for sure made probably unnameable amounts of money
Selling AMGs,
when Lewis was...
I agree, yeah.
I think that they... From that period, I think that they were like, we're never leaving F1.
Yeah.
Because they just were like, we have...
Oh, well, they're winning.
Yeah, they were winning. And I think a large portion of why Ferrari probably has a... I'd say why Ferrari has a bigger name and more popularity than Lamborghini is because Ferrari go racing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Enzo always said,
pedigree.
right? He goes, we sell cars to go racing.
Yeah. So they have that pedigree.
Not the other way around.
Whereas Lamborghini, they have race cars, but they've never had the pedigree race cars. Or for a brief period, they tried to, but...
But are you getting to the point where now the road cars? What I'm saying is they're not.
They get no handy.
There's no connection now.
The F1 cars are too far gone. They're way too. They're like spaceships now.
Yeah.
So there's no. You can't. And there's no way. Well, they've tried to put that engine in something and it hasn't really worked.
So it's more the brand name now as opposed to the.
I think so. As a business case, again,
marketing.
That's the one that I come back to. Is I look at it as a commercial exercise. The number of eyeballs. Could you think about how hard it is to capture eyeballs and attention these days? F1 has done it like nobody else. Where now the bandwagon of every other sport is now jumping onto it. You know, tennis, cricket, baseball. Everybody wants a bloody drive to survive, and it has just turned into entertainment.
Yeah.
It is entertainment.
The Americans
eyeballs.
got hold of it.
and that was one of the most extraordinary things, is they'd never cracked the US market.
Yeah.
And they'd had tried for so long, and it had just never worked because it was just a rich, weird European thing.
Yep.
And they've done it by making interesting characters. And I must say, I think it's been funny as I have followed the local press, and in particular drivers that don't have a seat in supercars this year, who have then come out and been very vocal about the fact that supercars just operates as a brand and ignores the drivers. And I've seen these comments, well, I've seen it from Roland, I've seen it from Scotty Pye, I've seen a few of these people going, you're just making it about you.
Yep.
And you have actually missed the boat on the character stories,
Yep.
and you've ignored that. And it's a serious problem because, hilariously, supercars seem to be the ones that aren't doing it.
Yeah.
And they bloody need to.
Because the characters is what everyone wants to see.
Mate, the characters are what we want to see.
Well, that's how you get.
That's how you
support it.
for.
Yeah, that's how you tune in for.
And like, how good's Toto? I mean, that man's a savage.
Oh,
and
he's
just
easily one of the best people on the grid.
The banter between team owners and principals, because I look at the excitement that Betty Clemenko, like when she came in, and Erebus, and then the grief that she got, and the horrors of, and then to watch her this year, and to watch her decimate, and to watch that woman, I mean, she has gone through the fires of hell and gone jam it up, and just ground it out and done the work, and has been rewarded for that. And I look at those character stories and I go, that is a glaring omission from supercars, that we just ignore all these extraordinary stories happening here in our own backyard. Like, this is the whole point of why I started doing any of this. Where are our fucking stories?
Yep.
Where are the Australian stories? Where are they being told? And where are they being told openly, honestly, with the same enthusiasm that we have here? And they just don't exist.
Yeah.
Well, we've always been
Australian
behind you,
drive to
right?
survive.
Yeah, well, there should be, because you think about it, I would argue that the 80s, not 80s, 90s and 2000s, the single best racing series on the planet for actual competitive racing and enjoyment in watching was Australian, either touring cars
Or V8 Supercars.
and then V8 supercars, what it came from. Either from Group A, transition to touring car, transition to V8 supercars, into like probably the late 2000s, maybe even early 2010s, was...
Mate,
even people
legendary.
overseas. There's a very
Yeah.
well-known Instagram called, it's at Patina Research.
Yep.
He's always posting like the best old school clips.
Yeah,
and he
he is.
said 2000s V8 supercar racing is the single best racing series of all time.
Yep.
And he's an American guy.
But also the names that we had at that era.
But it was because
iconic.
it was iconic, and
Yeah.
it was because everyone was invested. Now V8s is gone, and I think F1 knew this.
Yeah.
F1 has left. The cars are no longer a character in itself. In the 2000s, you would watch F1 for the cars because the cars
get
sounded phenomenal, And then you would support
Gave
the
me chills.
drivers because you just wanted to see the car. Now,
the
V8
cars
Supercars is like F1. With the car, V8 Supercars now, I don't care who's watching, they are shit boxes.
Yeah.
They're all the same. Who gives a shit about a Camaro and a Mustang? They're not even Australian cars. They don't look any good.
No.
They don't sound that crash hot anymore.
They're not actually based on the road cars either. Like, I know they're all space frame and everything,
Yeah.
but the actual cars don't have the same wheelbases.
No.
The body panels are all custom
They don't
panels.
even look like it.
The bonnet, the doors, the whole
Yeah, they don't
lot.
look the same, but they're all identical. And it's
Yeah.
like NASCAR has that.
Yeah, NASCAR with
But NASCAR has
on.
44 cars on a grid. So every race is an absolute debacle.
It's mayhem.
It's raw mayhem. V8 Supercars don't have that. And then we still go to these horrendous racetracks like Simmons Plains where the cars don't pass each other apart from one corner. Like, what are we...
Yeah.
And the crazy thing that V8s are ignoring, like I've seen it all over the press as well. It's what Scott was talking about with Roland Dane and that sort of thing. And the drivers saying, you guys have almost entirely missed the boat in building a new V8 Supercar brand. And V8 Supercars it's dying. It's nowhere near as
No.
popular as it once was. No one cares about it anymore.
Well, again, it goes down to
15
that
years
whole
ago.
where I feel good watching it because I've got an SS Commodore at the front
Yep.
of my house or a Ford.
Exactly. So the cars were the
Yeah.
reason we watched. We
Yeah.
don't have that now.
No.
So we need to be doing something.
Exactly.
The drivers are all legends. How has David Reynolds not got a show of himself? He is one of the funniest guys in motorsport.
So many of the blokes are funny, but
Yeah.
you can also see it's like working in politics, how you don't actually hear what people think until they're winding out.
Yep.
Because they're not allowed to speak, they're not allowed to say what they think. And then the minute they don't have a drive anymore, all of a sudden they've got opinions about everything.
Yep.
Because they are clearly told, shut the fuck up
Yep.
or you're out.
Yep.
And that brings us to here. If you don't let people speak, good, bad, or otherwise, like, mate, if people say dumb shit, that'll get you press as well.
Yep.
You know, it's okay for footballers to shit in a fucking hallway and they keep getting their coverage. I'm not sure what supercars are worried is going to happen.
Going off that point, I'm very interested to hear what Gunther now is going to come out with.
I've got to be honest, that man will get his own show.
Yeah.
He,
Just going back to that, I'll give you a couple of stats here. So Haas has been in Formula One for 8 years. They have had 160 races and they've had no podiums. And they are within $10 million of the $135 million budget cap.
Yeah, see, that's not performing.
No.
But on the face value, it was still a shock to us because we see Gunther. It was kind of like everyone blowing up when Daniel Ricciardo got ousted. It's like, yeah, we love Daniel Ricciardo. He was great.
It's not good. It wasn't good in that car.
Yeah, he was no good. He just wasn't good in the McLaren. Everyone's blaming Lando, blaming the McLaren development, blaming Zach Brown. I fucking love Zach Brown. I think he's awesome. It was just Daniel either didn't like the car or fell out of love with F1 or maybe he wasn't talented anymore or needed a break. And it happens. And it's like we ignored that, or a lot of us ignored that because it's Daniel Ricciardo and it's how can you not love the guy? And we think back to him at Red Bull and how ridiculously good he was.
Saying that in that AlphaTauri, he's actually now started performing in
That's
that
why
car
I said
and
I think he
doing
might
quite
have
well.
needed a break. He might have been burned out.
Definitely.
it's a long time at the top, mate. To
Yeah.
hold that intensity, to literally be at red line for years,
Very
physically,
few
mentally,
drivers.
emotionally.
I think 2012 was his rookie season or something like that, somewhere around there.
There's no way you just couldn't be absolutely rooted
Yeah.
from it.
Well, look at Alonso.
After
Alonso
10
took a
years.
break, came back,
Yeah.
weapon.
Well, very
again.
few drivers can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
a
have-
lot of them stay racing.
Yeah, but like I remember years ago, Mika Hakkinen took a sabbatical, came back and did a test and was like 3 seconds a lap
Yeah.
slow, and they were like, "You're not coming
Well,
back."
Michael came back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Very few drivers can. Michael, Alonso, Lewis, probably. You know, that sort of caliber. But you know,
Well, Ricardo seems to. He's definitely he's definitely stepped up a notch. His
I
performance.
don't think we'll see him at the top again.
I
That's
don't think so either.
I really do not think
Yeah.
we're going to see him.
No, he's off the boil. Look, he missed his chance. He wanted to be the big dog. He went.
I think if
Too
Took a
Perez
hard.
good
So-
paycheck.
if Perez had have properly
Yeah.
tanked, And if Lewis had have beaten Perez for the second position in the championship, I think we may have seen Ricciardo move into it. I don't think we will now. It'll be good to have him on the grid.
Oh, we might see him in that team, but we're not going to see him winning. I don't. Think.
Oh no, we're not going to see him winning.
I don't think so.
Now we've got a bit of live
I'd
chat
love to be proven wrong
on here. We've had props from Mr. Daniel Sharp with fantastic sound and picture. But he would also like Bart to speak into his microphone. So, mate, if you could work on that for Sharpie.
I'll get a bit closer to it.
And then I've got Mr. Andrew Price joining us. And off the back of our last discussion there with Mr. Danny Rick, who we love, adore, and can thank for the shoey, Andrew has said the car makes a big difference as well. So a car that doesn't suit your driving kills your confidence and it's frustrating. Which
it's true, but you're paid. I think that's a very big cop-out. Like Andrew would know as anyone. Andrew's actually a competitive professional race driver.
Absolutely.
But I think at F1 level, there is no excuse.
No, tough shit.
You're getting paid so
it's
much.
Literally
you're
your job.
Top 20 in the world racing driver. Figure the fucking thing out.
Yeah.
And if you can't, what are you doing in F1?
And that was what happened. Was obviously he couldn't figure it out for whatever reason.
And it annoyed me endlessly. I saw heaps of people commenting saying, "Oh, McLaren aren't looking after Ricciardo, and Zach Brown's doing him dirty by not letting working the car around him." I was like, "What?" Imagine being in a job and being like, "Oh man, I get that you're struggling doing your job. Like, what can we do to fix it?" It's like, figure the fucking shit out.
Absolutely, and it's
like drive your car.
It's horrible, but it is a horrible business. Like this is not a nice business.
No.
This is shit or get off the pot, and with a lot of people watching. So you better be real comfortable shitting in public.
I'm going to go back to Nico Rosberg.
Yep.
Beaten 2014, beaten considerably worse in 2015.
Annihilated in 2015.
He figured it out.
Yep. And he thought, they're never going to make the car around me.
Yeah.
Lewis is clear. He's won the last two.
Yeah.
This 2016 car is going to be a Lewis car. I'm going to need to drive like Lewis.
That's right.
And he won.
Yeah, he did. And I hate the people who go, "Oh, it's because Lewis had a technical." They all had technical issues.
Yeah.
Right. That happens in every season in every category. Right. So that's not an excuse. If you're going to win a championship, you've got to have more than one race up your sleeve buffer. So yeah, he figured it out.
And that's what they should. That's what Ricciardo should have done. But I think Ricciardo was burned out.
I totally agree.
I think he was
I
done.
think the man was cooked. Like that time at Renault, going from Red Bull, kicking ass, and then having Red Bull at your disposal, then going over to the French team and going, "Oh God," it just hasn't come back. And Mr. Price, to loop in on the last point, said, correct, zero excuse. You need to move on if you can't make it work. And then Mr. John Newstead has jumped in and said, with that much data at your disposal, you definitely know where the extra few tenths are.
Yep.
And we know that just from our mates who go running their Haltex around the track. Yep. They are analysing their data on their piss-poor slow laps around QR just to have a look at where they're cocking up. And you think about the amount of data they've got on their semi-road cars as compared to the finest in the world.
The amount of data that these guys
Correct.
Have. Who was...
if you're getting it wrong, it's going to be pretty clear to find out where it is.
It's pretty clear that the issue at hand is this is how Lando is fast. This is where he's fast. This is what he is doing. You need to do that. And then Ricciardo goes out and can't do that. It's like
can't do it.
The problem is now, I think he was struggling to give a fuck. I think he was burned out and his talent was wearing thin from it.
Yeah,
so
I think so.
I'll give you a stat here. So an F1 car carries around 300 sensors on board, and through a race weekend, they'll get 1.5 terabytes of data.
Yep.
Not only that, the other crazy, I guess, detail they go to is every lap that the car does, the data for that lap is sent back to HQ. And then they run a simulation.
Live. They've got like NASA.
Yeah.
Yep.
They run a simulation.
stations.
They run a simulation that's extrapolated from that lap. And they go, if we keep doing this, this is where we're going to end up. And then the next lap, if we keep doing that, and then so little changes are made to car setup, to strategy, all because in the back they're doing like 70 simulations.
Because you've got the whole rocket science team back at HQ with everything at their disposal.
Which is why now if you look at the sponsors of these teams, they're data companies.
They are big data companies, aren't they? And so that makes sense.
Oracle and stuff.
Like with the sick chrome rims, that honestly was one of the greatest things I'd
Google
seen. Like, I can't wait to see the Bing AI wheels. They're going to look great. The big bumpy triangles. That'll be sick.
I'll give you one last stat for Haas, and then I'll shut up about them.
Please, let's go. Then we can wind up on F1 because we've pumped F1 this morning.
Talking about teams that got it together, Haas got it together in 2018.
Yeah, they were fast.
Haas finished 5th in the Constructors' Championship
Really?
with no podiums in 2018.
Consistencies. They were
Just
K-Mag, I think that was, right?
Just punching
Might have been, yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely
Really?
K-Mag.
So for 1 year, they got it right. But since then, they haven't.
Well, that's F1. I always find that, the next year you've just, boom, rules or regulations or other people. Like, it's constantly.
Mate, again, look at Lewis. The man was untouchable.
Yeah.
Like, it really got tiring watching him win
That's right.
after.
It was proper.
It was exhausting.
It was proper tiring.
Yeah.
It
Because
was-
I'm like, yay.
And now we're back. Like you had 2021. It was probably another very, very good season where it was
It
Max
was actually,
Max and
yes.
Lewis.
Great
You're
fight.
right.
And then you had
Great
2022,
fight.
and you were like, "Oh, it's fresh. Like Mercedes are struggling.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go." And then you got 2023, and it's like, oh.
Decimation.
And now, what are we looking at in 2024? Because if it's more of 2023, it's going to be like me with V8 supercars. I'm not
Yeah.
going to watch any races.
Yeah.
It'll be RB 19.1.
Yeah.
Like it'll just be the same car with a little bit different.
Yep, and then it'll be funny, take a stab at all the Red Bull fans, that they'll all be enjoying it, even though they hated when Lewis was always winning, and they said that was the problem
exactly.
with F1. It's like, well, it's great when it's your driver.
Well, I remember, and I keep going back to my gold, the early 2000s, one of the commentators said, it was actually Martin Brundle, I think he said,
I love
you
Martin.
have to enjoy what's happening here with Ferrari and Michael Schumacher because it's not going to happen forever. And it's the same thing you have to remember with Lewis and now with Max together.
Yep.
It's not going to happen forever.
No.
But, so you got to kind of enjoy it. But in the moment, it's hard to.
I'm not a Max fan. I'm not a Max fan. I'm a little bit of a Red Bull fan because I love,
Red Bull.
love Red Bull and, I love the team boss. But I love what Red Bull did in the 2023 season because it is statistically the greatest season
It was insane.
of F1 ever for a driver. He broke every single record
he
just
did.
about there is to break.
It was mind-bending.
You can't just do that. Like, that's not something you just pull out of the bag 1 year. You have to build, which Red Bull have done for years and years and years on end. To do what they've done, I think is an incredible thing. I'm not a fan of them, but I love what they were able to achieve. I hope they don't do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they don't go and break all their records again and score even more points, but I love what they achieved
Yeah.
because I got to witness it.
Yeah.
And we'll probably never witness that
No.
again.
But see, my hope was that when because 2022 was first season of the new salary cap, my hope was like Red Bull win. They won 2022 pretty confidently. And I was like, all right, salary cap's in. It's going to be a bit of a change now. Who's going to be on the top? Oh, Red Bull are on the top again. And now coming, if Red Bull win again, I'm like, what's the point? We're still the same as what we were. We're back doing the stupid Mercedes domination era.
But what's hurting the sport is reliability.
Yeah.
Because reliability is so good now. And if you haven't watched the race from the late 90s, and obviously earlier is better, but I'm saying closer to now, which is early 2000s, mid 2000s, late 90s, they were a shit show. You'd always go into Melbourne, which was the first race of the season, and you'd know there would only be 6 cars finishing. And it was awesome because you'd see a Tyrrell that would be on the podium.
Well, that was like the beginning of the hybrid era. Like the beginning of the hybrid era,
That's
you
right.
had
They're all
Yeah.
blowing up. They were all
10 cars
blowing up.
Absolute
breaking down a
chaos.
race.
Anyway, that's
You know?
All
a
right.
check for Formula
I'm
One.
gonna call
I
it.
think-
We're going to wind it
Yeah.
out there on Formula One. We've been bashing that one now for 40 minutes. So
Bring on
thank
2026.
you, Gunter. Rory, I'm going to throw to you. Where are we punching next? Because I know we had a couple of things to talk about today.
I think the next one is probably a topic that I'm surprised we haven't really spoken about much more yet, considering it is really dominating the news articles, news headlines, and everyone into cars.
Let's go.
And that is car theft.
Ooh, that's a spicy meatball.
That is.
And this comes very familiar for us, especially for Jazz. Jazz recently had a friend of his have his car stolen.
Yep.
Won't name any names who was involved, but can we name the car?
Yeah. Look, so I think so. Let's preempt it a little bit with, we all heard news and stories on and around what's happening in the UK, right? And in the UK, the stats that I've been reading is there was a 4-week period late in last year where 40 Ferraris were stolen. There was like 120 Range Rovers that are still stolen every weekend, right? So
120 Range Rovers a weekend.
a weekend. So if you own a Range Rover in London, you cannot get it insured.
No.
If you own a Range Rover in anywhere else in England, you have to sign a waiver to say you're not going to drive it to London. and Range Rover prices are crashing like crazy. And that's just one of many, because they're able to get these, devices that, that you can replicate the signal and repeat signals and jump in and take off with the car. I think we're kind of seeing more and more of it across the board, across the world. But I was shocked to see it happen here in Australia.
Yep.
As Rory said, with somebody I know.
I'm looking at some stats here. I've ripped up some stats.
Yep.
These are from Budget Direct. They are, I think they're 2021, 22 stats. So not up to the minute. But Queensland is...
Just check your phone, Rory.
Car theft capital of Australia.
Is it really?
So... I'd have to be corrected. So 2021, I think it is. I think this is the data that I'm looking at. 15,805 vehicles stolen.
Wow.
In Queensland. A close second in Victoria, 15,353.
Yeah,
so
right.
monstrous numbers. Then New South Wales, and you think about the size of New South Wales and the population density, they're only 10,400.
Might go check my car outside.
Is it maybe because us Queenslanders we're much more relaxed?
Yeah,
Look,
possibly.
I think so.
So the car that was stolen was an M5 CS. There's only 20 in the country.
2022 M5
A
CS.
2022 M5 CS. So it was a very new car, very special car. And, it's been out to a couple of meets, to Rory's meets. I've driven the car quite a few times. It is an absolute weapon. And if you don't know about the car, go and watch, like a Chris Harris video on it or something. And they're actually known to be one of the best M5s ever made.
Well, not even that. I think it was
One of the best cars
one of the
ever
best
made.
BMWs ever
made. Yeah. So unfortunately, the thieves managed to get the keys, break in, get the keys and steal the car. The car has been recovered, thankfully. So if for those of you who didn't know, it has been recovered, but obviously, it's not in pristine condition. It was damaged.
Yep.
Stolen, damaged. So
and once it's been driven by somebody else, there's a taint of that's really very unpleasant.
Yeah, but it's good to know those stats. And the question
and
I
Brisbane
wanted
tops the crime list for thefts with over 7,400.
Well, I think the reason, so it'd be as bad as it sounds. It's people driving from, I guess, outside the city limits, I guess you could say. They're driving from the block into the city to more affluent suburbs, and because they're the cars that they want to steal. They're not just taking cars.
It's Audis, BMWs, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Whereas, and they're the ones, and theoretically, they're reasonably easy to steal. And the big one is because you just got to break in, grab the key, and you're done. Or if you've got one of the readers or rolling code things.
Yep.
So the signal copiers or the signal amplifiers are very uncommon here in Australia. Once when we heard about this M5 CS getting stolen, during the period of us trying to hopefully find the car, I did a bit of reading because at the time we were unaware of how it was stolen, and I was, I guess, praying and hoping that it wasn't one of these signal copiers that they use over in the UK. It's essentially like a scan tool attached to a laptop, and they can like hold it outside of your house, and it can find the signal that a key emits, replicate it, put it into the laptop, and then the laptop becomes the key.
Correct.
And then that isn't like able to unlock the car and drive. That laptop, the car thinks the laptop is the key, so they can drive it and start it whenever they want. But it's very uncommon most places other than in London. And the reason people think is because London is so heavily filled with data that everything has extended range there. Whereas in Australia, as anyone who is with Optus would know, that our range isn't actually that crash hot. So you can't even get reception like in my house with my phone because it's got more insulation. So if my phone can't get reception, a signal replicator isn't going to. But they're breaking into houses. And the one thing that someone mentioned to me recently, when was the last time you guys heard of someone getting broken into and having the TV stolen?
1997.
Yeah. It doesn't happen.
Back
No
when
one,
a TV was worth money because you're buying them at Aldi for $500.
no one
And
gets
they're not
robbed.
bolted to a wall.
No.
Yeah, and no one gets robbed anymore.
No.
Like, used to get PlayStations and Xboxes stolen, and
But that's all
they break
tracked
in.
and-
They don't care. They're just key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gone.
And go on. But so I just want to touch on something there that's really important.
Please.
The reason why cars are getting stolen here is different to reason why cars are getting stolen elsewhere.
Yeah.
So in the UK, cars are getting stolen and they're being sent to the docks and they're being shipped off to the Middle East or to Russia or somewhere.
Right.
So they're all disappearing. They're not.
So
whereas,
it's gone in 60-second stuff.
yeah. Whereas Rory was saying the other day, and I've learnt from my friend who had the M5 stolen after speaking to the police. Here it's for joyriding.
It's joyriding. It's
And
like
I
a
don't
flex.
get that.
It's
I don't
clout.
understand that. I don't understand of
Well.
going to the effort of stealing a car, joyriding, and then dumping it.
That's because you're too old. You're not flexing on TikTok.
That's
right.
And being a 12-year-old badass.
That's not bussin'.
because
So, just touching on that point, the cars are getting stolen for the export market, but it's not the cars that you would think. It's
Right.
things like Skylines
It's-
and Utes
yeah.
and other stuff like that
Right.
that get stolen, put in a container within like 2 or 3 hours, and then within 24 hours they're on the docks getting
I think
sent
I think even
overseas.
that's more limited. I think it's
But I thought it was very difficult to do that because a customs or an export agent would see what's in there and go, "This you're not allowed to sell. You're not allowed to send a car over without proper documentation."
I'm sure that bags of cash solve problems.
There's
Probably.
ways around it.
Yeah,
yeah. I
right.
think in Australia it's a lot more. You'd find that cars will be getting stolen in London and sent elsewhere because it's much easier to send a car to a different country when you're in London than it is when you're in Australia because the
Yes.
closest country is fucking miles away.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think here it's very much there would definitely,
you can't
like
just
Gibbo
put-
said, there'd definitely be cars being stolen and put in boats and stuff like that. But I think that maybe is like shrinking as a percentage. I think now it is literally just joyriding because these kids that are stealing the cars, they have TikToks and Instagrams.
Yeah.
And it's literally cloud.
It's clout.
All the stuff I've seen and my knowledge of
Clout, street cred, and initiations.
kids in care.
Yeah.
That a lot of it is related to that. So
Yep.
they are kids that do not have a good structure, have
Got it.
probably grown up in a reasonably disadvantaged environment,
Yep.
and in a sense for
There's not going to be a
excitement in your
slap
life.
on the wrist when they get home.
And then
No.
the other problem, and again, this is my understandings around it, and I'm again delighted to be corrected, but people over the age of 18 who can actually go to jail for this, they actually engage and encourage. So, outlaw gang style, and say to these kids that are 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, because you are under this age, you just get a slap on the wrist
Yep.
and you're walked out and taken home via McDonald's. There are no consequences. And this is always a very difficult argument because there is one side that says string them up,
Yep.
and then there's the other side that says they don't know any better and nobody knows what to do, so nothing happens.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is the primary driver, is that they are encouraged and taught how to do these things, and then they can do it relentlessly
Yep.
with no consequence.
It's really bad. So my neighbours at home, they had their RAV4 or something stolen from the driveway. They were essentially they'd left it there with the keys in, sort of thing like that.
Oh.
Never
yeah.
good. I mean,
No,
look,
they were like-
pro tip, take the fucking keys out of the ignition.
They were like emptying the groceries out of it or whatever.
that's one of the big ones.
Yep.
If you leave your car running on the driveway,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it was. It was just right place, right time for the thieves. And they took the car, and there was a bunch of resident houses, like my house and a couple of other houses that had CCTV footage of the kids who stole the car. And
Yeah,
it
right.
was actually a female and a guy who stole the car, young. And the neighbours were telling me that when the cops came and they told the cops about the car getting stolen, they gave them like a caricature of what the person looked like. The cops were like, "Oh yeah, we know them." Like
Oh,
they didn't
wow.
even. They just described like, young, like middle to late adolescent girl,
Yeah.
long dark hair, like white shoes,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Guy was wearing red ball cap. The cops were like, yeah, we know them.
Yeah.
Like they didn't even know. They're like,
Wow.
oh yeah, we know who
And
they are.
that's probably one of the worst parts is these kids are always known to police.
Yep.
And they're equally frustrated that they have no capacity to...
Yeah.
Well, the problem we're facing now is that, like anyone in any job, if you are doing something and you continuously do it and it just keeps happening as a problem, you're like, well, I'm just not going to start doing that. So cops are now giving much less interest and much less concern to stolen cars because you got to feel for the cops. Imagine pulling over the same people over and over, handing them in, and then they're back out in the streets doing it. You're like, what the... Who cares?
Well, it's funny because the cops did say to my friend, they said, oh, it's most likely kids.
Yeah.
You'll find the car in 2 days. And like everything they said, I was like, nah, it's surely not. And everything they said was yep.
Precisely accurate.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a top tip would be if you don't have any sort of security on your car and you do have a car of value, is to, either get an AirTag, get a remobilizer, put your keys somewhere away.
Well, there'll be a few top tips. So the few top tips would be buy a manual, because if you look at the percentage, apparently I heard a story 3 or 4 months ago. A guy's Porsche got broken into in his garage. They got the keys, they got the car, hopped in. It was a GDS
manual.
Boxster manual. And on the CCTV footage, they just dropped the key and walked out.
They couldn't find drive.
Well, they didn't even hop in the car. They opened the door. They opened the door, looked in.
Damn it.
Well, he didn't know that's why, but he says they both opened each side of the door, looked in the car, and then one of them just threw the key on the ground and they walked out.
Nah.
So they don't want a manual, either because A, they can't drive it, or B, it's harder to drive.
Yeah.
The other ones would be like AirTag your car. Don't just put it in the glove box. Or do the thing Scott said, buy 2 AirTags, put one in the glove box.
One easy to find, one impossible to find.
So then they think if it continues to update that it's just a glitch.
Correct.
Other ones would be, if you got like a Japanese car, put an immobilizer on it, reactivate the Subaru pin code. If you got one of them.
Oh, don't get me started on them.
Or get the good old club lock back, like it's the 1990s.
So
my parents
that is the funniest thing.
I've got one for my old Falcon. I've got a club lock for that bad boy.
It's the funniest thing because we haven't seen those since the 90s, right? Remember, you used to see the ads on
everywhere,
TV?
mate.
I was in London just a couple of months ago. Every Range Rover's got a club lock.
They've all got
Yeah,
them
you
over
got to have a
there.
club lock. My wife's father, he had the old Kingswood, and his story was he'd like put a chain. He had a bolt at the thing, and he would put a chain through the steering wheel and bolt it down into the floor, so that the car wouldn't get stolen.
Yeah, my parents have started using a club lock.
I saw it
on their cars.
Invest. So you heard it here first. Wheelhouse, invest, stonks.
Well, maybe
buy into club locks.
maybe we'll start releasing a line of club locks.
Oh, the wheel.
I think,
oh my
Wheelhouse
God, the
club
wheel
lock.
lock. The Wheelhouse club
Yeah.
lock.
Yeah.
And it's got
They're
AirTags
back.
in it.
It's good.
And we'll do
love
the midday, telecommercial where
Yeah.
Don't let this happen to you.
As seen on TV. And then we can be, Gibbo, do you want to be the bad burglar? You look scary.
I do look scary.
Yeah. We're totally making this commercial, aren't we?
It's an actual thing.
We're going to release our own line of tracking products.
you laugh now, we're going to be millionaires making this. I'm telling
billionaires.
you.
Yeah, this is how you're making money. And this.
Take it to London. We'll be trillionaires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sell them on the street.
And then we'll sell away to the thieves on how to get through the lock. Microsoft way.
Oh, no,
Arm
well,
both sides of the
we'll,
army.
do the Apple backdoor into it
Yeah.
that they absolutely don't give to the FBI. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
If the FBI's listening, don't worry about it.
Here's how to do it, but it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's right.
My phone just vibrated when you said that.
I watched the Mighty Car Mods racing in Kuala Lumpur Christmas episode, and they had a good one on there where the Malaysians, a lot of the cars are manual over there, they actually have an attachment that goes on the gear stick that you put a pin through and a lock, and then you can't move the gear stick.
Yeah.
So if you put it in drive, like you put it in first or whatever, you can't then take it out of gear, out of drive.
Got it.
Because they have a lot of car theft happening over there. So, that's their, like, if it's stupid, if it's simple and stupid but works, it's not stupid.
That's when you take the handbrake off and you just start the car and it rolls.
Yeah, so you got to leave it in neutral. Otherwise, they're going to drive your car in first gear. No. But
Now, I've got to jump in here. The chat has lit up. Racing driver Andrew Price has also jumped in and said, interestingly, knows a little bit about car theft.
Which he does,
Given that he also does a bit of
Car theft?
car theft and recovery. I'm not sure if you saw his
He's a debt
Falcon
collector.
station wagon got rammed the other day as well.
Oh, true.
Yeah, mate, he really copped it. So in December, January 22-23, Uber Car Share had 300 cars stolen between Victoria and Queensland. Newey tells us Queensland government recently committed a pol-air chopper to North Queensland Townsville due to the massive car theft problem. Kids stealing cars for Instagram and TikTok notoriety.
Wow.
Yep.
Newey has also said cars are being dumped in, like Garden City. And I know that there's 2 dumped cars actually like on the block where we are here, just from the Christmas break. So there's 2 that have been identified, like right now where we're sitting. And then we have some more comedy from Mr. Daniel Sharp. He suggests that we need underdoor flamethrowers, which I must say I'm also a big fan of. If you've seen that South African.
In South Africa.
I was just about to say South Africa.
Absolutely magnificent. Now, Sharpie also says in the glory days of club locks, the big thing was these are so easy to get past. So we are going to have to make the Wheelhouse club lock.
I remember there was one that you could actually
you could
put your
just
foot up and
yank it.
snap them, but then they made a second and like you're not snapping.
Yeah,
them.
or whatever the one that my parents use.
Yeah.
Um,
I was going to say,
You
we can
could-
make the...
is like it's so there's no way
There's
you're
no way.
snapping
It's
it
a
in
solid
half.
bar.
Yeah, it's a proper piece of steel. It's so heavy.
So
like
Sharpie
it's from
said
the 60s.
that'll bring the old crims out of retirement.
Mm.
The
kids will rock up with
OGs
a
will have
grinder.
to teach the kids. Yeah, mate, they'll be there with the
An oxy torch.
Ryobi.
sideways. Going through that. See, I like where this is going. I enjoy a bit of research and development.
Well, those steering bars are actually quite easy to get into, the key lock ones, because you can just drill out the key barrel.
Oh,
Yeah.
can you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you drill out
okay.
the key barrel, and then that, you can get a screwdriver in there, and then flick the little tab, and
Yeah,
then you can.
right.
Don't ask me how I know that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No.
And then you can retract it.
I know what it was. His Subaru broke. No.
Yeah.
That's it.
So- yeah.
let's go with that.
That would have
Common
absolutely
denominator.
been how that happened.
But to wrap it up, I think, like we've touched on, there's very few. A lot of people seem to think that we're getting the replicators and stuff here in Australia. We're not. They probably do exist here, but very limited use. These kids are not stealing cars for monetary purposes, so they don't care. They'll just hit each house until they get a car. They're taking your keys. So, yeah, we live in Queensland. We're virtually an old farm state. Everyone leaves their keys in the foyer, in a glass bowl, hanging up on the wall next to the door.
With the front door wide open.
Yep, with the door unlocked. You can't do that anymore. Buy a Faraday box, lock your house, buy a fucking safe if you have cool cars. Do something. Just put the keys in there.
Yep.
And if you don't have cool cars, don't do that. Leave your keys at the front, because then they just come take your car.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
I've got to tell you, I've got a secret. It's buy shit boxes. I've always joked that with all the crap old cars I drive, I'm like, mate, I can leave them with the windows down.
No one's going to do it.
No one touches them. They don't even look sideways at them because they're not cool, and there's no flex points in the crap I have. My brother had a 7 Series, like a fairly recent one. It was parked outside our house, and we had someone have a go at that and then steal the number plate off it.
Wow.
Whereas the other crap I've got, people just walk past and get,
Well, my last car was so loud that it was the instant alarm if you started it.
Yep.
That
Put a big cold start on your car.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, I think the big problem coming for it that we didn't really touch on is how insurance works if someone takes your keys.
How does that work?
Well, if they didn't have to break into your house, and by break in means have to damage something to get in, if they just waltzed in or walked in, or if your key was in your car, that insurance will pay you out approximately $0.
Really?
Wow. So
So either lie when it gets taken.
when the Wheelhouse podcast website gets released, wait until you see our whole new exciting range of car security devices.
Faraday
and
boxes
recommendations.
and locks.
Yeah.
Faraday boxes, locks, everything to keep your car.
I've also heard your car is not insured if it's within like a kilometre of your house, because you shouldn't be parking it on the street. You should be parking it in your garage.
In your garage, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's it can be.
Depends.
I believe
where
it can be on the street,
Yep.
but it can't. You can't be like multiple streets away.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's fair enough.
depends where you've told the insurance company that the
Yeah.
car is kept.
Yeah.
Yeah, and how it's kept. But yeah, there's So how I said my neighbours, they, I guess, were just nice people, honest people, and they said to insurance agency. They explained how the car got stolen, and the insurance agency were like, "Oh, well, that's a you problem, not."
They'll do anything to get out.
Yeah,
of it.
Not an
and
us
which it is. So
problem.
They're
if
not
someone,
your friend.
if you leave your house unlocked and someone walks in, takes your keys and goes, and then you're like, I got broken into, and there's no sign of forced entry, insurance
Make
agency
forced
will
entry.
find any reason not to pay you out.
The first department that you talk to is the department designed to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second department is the team designed to say no more aggressively.
Yeah.
And the expectation is that you'll give up by then.
Yeah.
And to actually have a win, you must be reasonably relentless because that is actually
work hard for
that's by design.
Unless
This is not an
they've
accident.
smashed, if they've smashed a window or burnt your louvers
or
out.
if you really did fuck it up and it is actually your fault and you just need to eat shit and deal with it, that is also
Yep.
because they do get a fair bit.
invest in crim safe too, or louvers,
louvers.
on houses. Get rid of them.
Get rid of them.
It's the second
Yeah.
time in probably the span
You were
of 2
saying,
months
Yeah.
that
It's
someone
so
they
easy to get
melt
in.
they melt the they melt something on the louvers, slide the
Well, you
glass
can
out.
just slide the glass out, mate. They're easy to pull through. I
Yep.
used to use those in old rental houses when I forgot the keys. You just pull a few things out, put your arm in, open them, boom, you're away.
There you go.
And Nui has suggested here on the live chat, next trend will be carjacking like in South Africa. Don't need to worry about a lock if the car's running. And that is actually, whenever we drive places, my wife's always like, lock the doors.
Yep.
If we're in a car that doesn't automatically
Yeah,
lock. Because
got
I'm
it.
like, what are you talking about? I go, "Fucking windows down," and she'd be right, mate. But she's like, no, you don't understand. That is actually
Yeah, right.
what's next.
There you
So-
go.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
well,
on carjacking, because we're working on a limit today.
Yep.
We're actually going to try and wrap up in a reasonable amount of time because we do actually have a physical hard limit today. I think I'm going to steer the conversation towards our next topic.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we've got one, but
I've got one.
I just figure we're going to take it in a new direction.
Yeah, I
Hit us,
wanted
Jazz.
to. I think, guys, we need to talk a little bit about the used car market because that's a
I love
weekly.
talking about the used
That is a
car.
weekly discussion.
What have you
Specifically, would you
seen
like
this
to
week?
talk
Well,
about the
no,
used car
look.
market?
Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what gets a majority of people, and I only want to touch on it for a short time because it's not a general interest of mine. But
I'll
something
set a
that
30-minute
lot
timer.
what everyone generally in the car culture likes, and that are the young man's enthusiast car of choice or enthusiast cars of choice, which are cars like the M2 and the RS3, are very much dropping in value.
Really?
yes.
Significant compared to
Really?
even a couple of months ago. So you can get a decent kilometre, and I don't know what your, I guess, interpretation of decent is, but something around the 70,000 K mark of either of those cars at the 50 grand mark now.
Wow.
Same as
Advertised.
Same as 2014 to 2016 M3s.
Good point.
They're about
That's
50
a great-
grand now.
Yep. So that sort of genre
Interesting. So they
of
bombed
car
pretty hard.
well, but there's so many of them, right? So I think on last check there was about under 200 M2s for sale.
Oh, wow.
Right.
I didn't
that is
realise there were
it's
that
an
many.
enthusiast car of choice because it is a great car.
Yeah.
And cash was cheap for a long time, so these people put them on finance. I think that's probably what's caused it.
A lot of them sold
Yep.
during COVID. The price really went up high, and now you can get a really good car for a decent amount of, if that's your type of first enthusiast car that you're buying.
Interesting.
So I've seen a lot of those in almost every color combination. RS3s are a little bit lower in price, but you've rear wheel drive versus all wheel drive, so it's not there. But they're a young person's tuning dream, right?
Yep. They're the new, back when, I guess, back when we were all growing up, they were like the 40 to 50 grand car was for someone who's doing a little bit better, and they've got a Series 8 RX-7, a R34 GDR, an Evo 9. They were always like the 40 to 50K car.
That's right.
You'd have some people who'd have, they would have the Civics and the Pulsars and that, which were like your $10,000 car. And then you'd look up to the guys like, oh man, they're modifying a $50,000 car. Those cars are now your F87 M2,
Yes.
F80 M3, F82 M4, your Audi RS3s. You're looking at like your Mark 7 Golf Rs.
Yeah.
They've all come down.
So there's currently 8 2014 M3s available, and the price range goes from 57,000 to 70,000
Yeah.
There you go.
That is
for all 8 of them.
that is
between that.
a crazy amount of car. They were 180 grand.
That's right. Yeah.
brand new.
And that's the pre-LCI, isn't it?
Yeah, 2016 was LCI.
Yeah, they weren't as well loved,
Mm.
but you can do a lot of, technical mods to them.
Yeah, LCI, for those wondering, that is BMW's internal facelift name. I think it stands for Late Car Improvement. Something like that.
Yeah.
So it's when they release a car and then a couple of years in they release an LCI version.
Yeah. So I was thinking that's a really good car that you can get. So around the time the M2 came out, I went on a drive day with BMW where they had every one of their M cars there, and it wasn't all car nuts. It was family people. It was
BMW
older people.
Yep.
It was all sorts of people, and everyone at the end of the day who was asked which was their favorite car, 80% of them said it was the M2 because it's just such a great handling, easy,
ridiculously good car,
really good car.
Ridiculously good.
And I'm talking the first gen one, not the following ones which were got better.
Yep, I think the first gen is.
extent.
I think the first gen's the pick of the bunch.
You think that's the best one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely watch out. The other cars that I've seen that are popping up on the market at the moment that I really like, we saw on Collecting Cars. Back to, I know we talked a little bit about this last week, but the R129 SL73.
Oh, yes.
That's come up for sale. For those of you who don't know, made for the Sultan of Brunei. It was originally started out as an SL600, and AMG wizardry turned that into a 7.3 litre V12.
Which is an engine for?
The Pagani Zonda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And very special car, low numbers, production. And they are, I think the last check was that's at £200,000. So I expect that to go.
But there has been some cars selling for.
There's one of those for
cheap.
auction on, or coming up for auction on Sotheby's, and the price range is 200,000 to 240,000.
An SL73.
Yep, AMG 1999.
A 99 one. Okay, so that's
square headlight.
Yep. Yep.
So there's been a couple of cars that have sold recently.
I believe there's less than 50 of them.
You can definitely tell the market is
cooling.
Cooling is a good, a nice way to put it.
Yep.
Refrigerated?
I'd say cold room. I'd say frozen goods.
A freezer room.
Red Rooster frozen chook.
It's going to need thawing.
It's going down. So a 2000 Honda Civic EK9 Type R, which was the first Type R Honda Civic. Unanimously loved car. Probably one of the best driver's cars of all time. Phenomenal. Were never sold here. Were only sold in Japan. For so long, you were never able to import them here just for importation reasons. People back in the day were bringing them in and then swapping the VINs out for like EK4s so they could drive them here. Really iconic car. 1.6 litre, so B16B. Iconic car. They were never cheap cars, but they boomed during COVID big time, which is fair. They were probably worth more than they were selling for. They jumped up to about 40, 50, 60 grand we saw them going for, which is fair enough because if S2000s are going for 60, 70, 80, if you got DC2 Type Rs going for 30 to 40, the EK9 is probably a 50, 60k car using that as a comparison.
There's 5 of them for sale currently on car sales, and they range from 43,000 to 55,000.
Well, one just sold on Collecting Cars in Australia.
Cheap.
23.5 grand. I was so pissed. Yesterday was a really heavy day for me at work. It was crazy. I didn't really have any time to do anything.
So message all these guys and lowball them?
No, I was actually pissed because if I had known that it was going to go for that money, I would have bid 25 grand because that is so much car for that. That is... It had 190,000 Ks, but it's a 2000 model. So that's actually...
It's not too bad.
That's not that bad.
As long as they had a good service and stuff. But
it's a Honda.
Super reliable engines, right? But we're seeing so many stories like that, right? Like a lot of you know the podcast Seen Through Glass. He's been looking for a Challenge Stradale for such a long time. And they are £200,000 plus over in the UK. So 200, I've seen one for 210, seen one for 220, seen one for 230. Collecting Cars, he managed to get it for 153 before fees.
Yeah.
And he was surprised. He was like, I put a bid in for like 150 and then it went to 150, 152. He went up to 153 and secured the car. That's a $700,000 car in Australia, $600,000 car.
There's been a few others. There's a Queensland-based E36 M3 Evo.
Oh yeah.
That just sold.
Yep.
Modified car,
Color.
supercharged. It's silver.
Ah, I saw it just the other day, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So supercharged car, like, but with all the parts that you would do to the car.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I can't remember the brand of supercharger, but it's the one that you'd want.
Mm-hmm.
Like it has a roll cage and stuff in it, but it's a phenomenal car. BBS LMs, all the kit.
Mm-hmm.
I think it sold for 68 grand.
60 something grand, yeah.
There's an E30, like an E36 M3 Evo that sold out of Hong Kong for 45,000 US.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're seeing particular cars just not get the money that they were getting.
Didn't a Dakar yellow E36 M3 go for like 90 grand in COVID?
Yep, it did. Yeah. Low kilometre, I think that was really low kilometre. But still.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I think there's some cracking bargains.
Yep.
Once money gets expensive and people are struggling to pay their bills, the first thing you do is unload your toys. And then when everyone unloads all their toys all at once, the glut in the market is not very nice. I must say I am trying to sell a friend's Hyundai at the moment. I'm getting no bites on that bad boy. I'm actually going to have to list it. I put it on car sales first, not one bite.
Yep.
Not one for a fuel efficient, great condition, high spec, sensible Hyundai, big Hyundai energy. If you've been following some of my side shenanigans, no interest. And I'm going to have to put it on Marketplace and Gumtree and deal with the bots and the scammers and the morons. And I'm not looking forward to that.
No.
Well,
I'm astonished, but like nothing. It's a sensible car, like great. I look at it and I'm like,
yeah, touching on that with the, saying people, once one goes, everyone starts bringing out their ones and doing the same thing. The 22Bs that were coming out of Japan after COVID, the first one came out and everyone jumped on it. I think the car went for over $1 million, the first one that came up for sale, because everyone was like, holy shit, a 22B, these don't just come out of the woodwork. And then since like 2019 COVID to now, I think it was something like 20 or 30 22Bs have come up for sale and been sold. Few. And the price has dropped out of them. People are getting them for like $200,000.
I was going to say there was one in the high 100s.
There was one 198. But there was
money has just dropped.
I think during COVID, I saw 3 sell for over 400 grand, and then exiting COVID, one sold for 198 grand. Admittedly, I was since told that it was a bit of a dog. Wasn't a very nice one. It was one that was bought and then, as with any of those cars, was well enjoyed, which is great. But still, 198 grand for a 22B is
great money,
ridiculously good money, because you're never going to lose on that car.
Well, that's the same as my friend Kyle down the Gold Coast. He runs Flat 4. It's a Subaru shop, and he imports a lot of Japanese Subarus. And he brought a 22B in for a customer, and they went about restoring it because it wasn't in great condition when they got it. And he's like, the market for these things has just dropped. A lot of that stuff that was held up in museums is now, during COVID, when the prices were very hyperinflated, a lot of that stuff has come up for sale. He said that's good because a lot of those cars are now out in the market, but a lot of those car collections have been plundered, and now you've sort of had this thing where prices went up, they then dropped, and now they're going to go skyrocketing.
I think Subarus were one of Subaru, Nissan, probably a couple of other manufacturers felt the biggest jump in COVID. I think Subaru and Nissan were probably the biggest, because Subaru, all of a sudden, you started seeing so many specialty model Subarus. There was 22Bs, there was RA Type Cs,
that's right.
There was GC8 version 5s, there was S204s and S207s, just out of the fucking wazoo. And they were all selling for big money because they are special cars. Now there's a fucking shitload of them around. And I saw a S204 WRX STI. I would consider that probably one of my all-time favorite Subaru WRXs. I think it sold for like 42 grand, which is crazy.
That was the crashed one.
Don't know if it's crashed. I don't know.
There was one that came up for sale.
It wasn't crashed in the pictures. It might have been crashed prior and fixed, but this was minted and good in the photos.
Yeah, because there was one that S20. I think it was a Hawkeye, so I think it was an S20.
For the silver ones,
Yeah, so that one came up for sale. There's one that came up for sale a little while ago, and it had been crashed on the right-hand side, but there was only one photo of it, and it wasn't listed as an S204, and you only knew that by looking at the seats and realising they were the carbon back Recaros. That one ended up going for about that price, because I bid on it, didn't win it, and it went to STI Heaven in New South Wales, who've restored it and are now putting it on the road.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, there was a driving one that, so I think it had a fair few Ks, had about 150,000 Ks. And it was like 42 or 45 grand, which was crazy because during COVID, they were going for 70 to 80. And I was like, we've just halved the price on.
Yeah, like GC8s.
Yep.
You know, they skyrocketed. They were a $7,000 car.
Version 5 STIs went, they were 120 grand.
120 grand, yeah. Now they're back down to like 60, 70.
Yeah.
But still,
The
that's
two
they're not
doors.
selling.
The two doors. Yeah.
The four doors were like a sub $10,000, just a normal WRX. And they went to
Even
30,
the 4-door
40.
STIs, you can get them for like 14 grand. They've jumped a little, but they're still not expensive. They're like 30-ish now.
Yeah,
But the two doors will always be. But it's crazy because unfortunately we see the effect. They're cheap.
Yep.
COVID happened.
Yep.
They went wild, and then they rubber band. They never rubber band back to where
No,
they were.
they don't.
Then all of a sudden that precipice is a bit higher.
Yeah.
And then there's another boom, and they go up there 160
That's right.
grand, 180 grand. And they come back, and suddenly they're 100 grand.
That's right.
And it'll just keep doing that.
But this is the buy time.
We're getting,
Buy the dip, people. Buy the dip.
Mate,
right now is a dip. I would say that we're going to continue dipping. But if you're someone watching this, or you're an enthusiast who finds this podcast, and you're like, when should I buy a car? Don't be like, I might wait a little further. Just buyer's market right now.
Yeah.
Low ball and buy right now. Now, because we're in a dip. It might get worse, but it's going to get better. From here.
Interestingly, indications, if depending on how closely you follow all of these things, I don't know if you've seen that Commonwealth Bank are actually chopping their wholesale lending rates, and they're actually looking to be more aggressively competitive. And an organisation that big that makes that many $1 billion in profit doesn't make those moves unless they know what's going on.
Yeah.
And that to me is a striking indicator that we are somewhere near the point that they were trying to get us to in terms of slowing the economy.
Yep.
So if that's the case,
we're in the thick of it now. Like where we are right now, this is somewhere near the worst.
Yeah. Well, look at the US.
Of where we are.
Right, booming at the moment.
Yeah. And off the back of this, like buy. If you're listening in January 2024 and you like to buy dumb things, buy now.
I reckon this will be. We'll feel it for a little while longer because what happens is, because I know NAB are currently very tight on, like they're not letting their like top executives and stuff like take people out to lunch and shit like that. A bit of inside information. So obviously they're similar to Commonwealth. They're talking like, hold on, we're not getting that many people. We're not making as much money now because money's tight and no one's spending. So they'll start to look to halve their lending rates, their policies and stuff like that. But people have been so behind that it will take a little while for people to recoup the money and then have the access to buy cars. So if this is the lull for our interest rates, for money being expensive, you've got probably at most 24 months before the market, say from now, I'd say probably 24 months. I'd say when we're doing a podcast in January 2026, I'd say we will start to see the market boom again, and it will boom way harder.
It will boom so hard.
Because everyone will remember, fuck, it jumped last time.
That's
I've got
right.
money this time. I need to
Correct.
buy now.
Yeah.
You'll see everything will go really ballistic because by 2026, where is the modern car market? We'll have all the 4-cylinder C63s, probably
That's
a 4-cylinder M3. Will be much more hybridized, probably a lot more EV, and then everyone will be like, that was what I've always said to anyone who asks me, what do you think the market's going to do? Everyone always says, oh, there's no way that car will be worth more. There's always a pullback, blah, blah, blah. The problem is in the past, the new cars
Have been
have been good. So no one wants the old car because the new cars have always been good. We're getting to the point now where
no one's
the new cars are no good. So everyone's going to be like, what are the old ones doing?
That's right.
And by the time the market replenishes and sort of levels itself out and people have got money again, new cars will all be hybrid. And so all of a sudden you won't be able to buy petrol cars. And that's when there's an argument to be said that petrol will be expensive and all that. But I think it's going to go.
Yeah.
Nobody
I
gets
think it's
excited
fine.
over a
It's gonna
4-cylinder C63.
No,
Well,
as Jazz was
so-
saying, where are they all?
There's none. I don't see them.
They're out.
They're out, but there's none on used. There's nothing.
No. Nobody
one
gets
reviewing
excited
them.
over
No one wants to talk about it.
Now, I've got a sidebar.
Like
Sorry, Jazz.
V-
You had
V6
a
and
I was
here?
just going to say, I wanted to quickly talk about cars that are depreciating for similar reasons because they're no good. And the two that
Teslas.
come to mind is the SF90 and the 296 GTB.
Have you guys seen what the overseas prices? This is to Gibbo and Scott. What the overseas prices are doing for SF90s and 296s?
Let's have a look.
So an SF90 in Australia, they're looking for 1.2 mil.
Mm-hmm.
One on collecting cars just sold this week for £220,000,
What?
which is about 500k.
Yeah, well, I was
EV.
going to say the old pounds to dollar dues conversion's pretty brutal.
Yeah, but
So
that's still 500 grand.
We're asking
In-
$999,900 in
Australia,
Australian dollar
right?
dues.
Now they aren't moving. You've got
1.2
in the UK
1.2.
296 GTBs, 55 for sale. 55
Really?
for sale, and the
Mate,
lowest one is getting towards 220,000.
That's the GDP of a
pounds.
small country going on there, isn't it? Like,
Yeah. So what we're seeing is
wow.
a little bit of what you were saying, Rory, is that these cars that are coming out in high production numbers and not genuine enthusiast type of cars, are just very numb device type of cars. People are going, yeah, we'll buy, and then now a year or two later they're going, hang on a second, this is not.
So I'll preface that the 296 is a great car,
It is.
phenomenal car.
Every
SF90,
review I've seen.
SF90, no good.
Yeah.
Each one I've been in has been extremely lackluster. 296, phenomenal car, really, really good car. But it's never gonna be worth anything.
No.
You know what I mean?
Six-cylinder.
Because we've gotten to the point now where the cars are only as good as their performance because they have minimal character.
That's right.
The 296 admittedly has some character to it, but if you were to compare it to
A Scud.
a Scuderia,
Or even a 430 or a 458, right?
Or a Toyota Camry,
man,
I mean.
even a 488.
Correct.
We're
yeah.
getting to that point.
It's a car I really don't like, is
Yeah.
a 488.
So-
Not a Pista, but a 488.
Yep.
So a friend of mine who owns a Pista went and took us SF90 for a drive, and he said, it's definitely faster, but he enjoys driving his car around the track way more because you notice the weight.
The SF90 is too fast, and it's the speed is, you can tell they've introduced that to make up for the weight.
Yes. Yep.
So it's very, very heavy, very feels almost cumbersome for a Ferrari, but the speed is so ludicrous that you almost overlook that. You're like, oh yeah, but how fast is it?
That's right.
And people used to get up Commodores and shit, be like, yeah, they're fast in a straight line, but they don't go around a corner. Now we've got Ferraris doing the same thing.
A Ferrari built for drag racing.
Speaking of which, actually, Scott, this is
Please.
one that interests you. I actually I was just having a quick look on collecting cars. A W1 GDSR.
Yeah, just sold the other day. Orange one.
Just sold, orange one, 32 kilometers on it.
280.
That market's pulled back,
No,
but it's
380.
still a lot. 351,
351. Because they were 280 brand new, weren't they?
260.
260 brand new.
Still been a decent investment.
Yeah.
Still very good.
What's-
And have sat through.
What's your return on that? How many years have you sat on that?
Isn't there only 4 of them?
Who can do maths?
That's the
I
Maloo.
can't.
So the Maloo, there's only 4 of them.
We really need a finance person that can
2017.
actually help us-
2017.
Help us figure this out. If there's anybody in the chat that knows what they're talking about, you can help us do the year on year. What is it? If you can get 7% on your money, that's
So it's made 100 grand in, what's that,
3 to 4 years.
about 6 years.
Yeah, that's pretty good on that amount of money. that
But he
kind
could have
of
made
return.
more.
He could have made probably 300 grand more.
Now, I've got to quickly circle back on marketplace finds.
Yep.
Something that, Rory, I blame you for this, but I've really fallen down the wheel rabbit hole.
Oh,
And that's fucked. I really wish I
bad.
hadn't.
It's bad,
I really had no interest in it. I didn't really care, didn't really pay attention. And then I listened to you say fake wheels for 10 years.
Yep.
And I started paying attention. I have been looking for a set of 3-piece BBS RS for my Vert. I
one of the best wheels of all time.
have
Hard
discovered
to find.
that the wheel market is not dissimilar to the watch market. I have noticed as I have watched this market, because I didn't understand it, so I've spent a year studying it. Mate, it's like buying a Rolex. Like, you can buy a sub and just sit on it.
Yep.
And they didn't do much for a long time. But your $12,000 subs now are $20,000 sub. And they seem to be resistant to broader market variations.
So this was one of my biggest. I obviously, for those people who maybe have only followed me for a short period of time, I'm probably a little bit quieter on it these days than the past. I still am very vocal, but Big genuine wheel guy, genuine parts guy in general. Unless the parts are discontinued and someone who is a quality, so to put it in perspective, Seabon Carbon, famous carbon composite manufacturer in the US. They make a lot of copy parts from Japanese companies.
Yep.
A lot of those parts they make are parts that are discontinued from it. So Mugen and Spoon and stuff, they've discontinued a range, and Seabon make a part. Seabon actually make a very good composite, so it's not that bad. But I'm a massive genuine parts person. And as you were talking about wheels, I was about to say wheels are dangerous. They're like watches.
Wheels are dangerous. They are like watches. But, mate, you can fit a lot more watches. You got fucking stacks of wheels out the side of your house.
Yep.
I'm such a hillbilly now. Like, I'm really getting out of control. And it's...
But like I said, the one thing I say to people is you always buy genuine wheels because you're never going to lose money on them. You may not make money.
No, but they hold.
They hold, and it doesn't cost you anything to have them. You know what I mean? So you put them on your car. So I bought a set of...
sorry, you're getting burned via the chat. Rory's okay with similar design watches, though.
Oh, yeah, because I wear a Casio.
How good's a Casio?
Yeah,
I love the crossover ones. I've got
one of those as well, the black one.
I've got I think it's a Patek, like a Seiko crossover, and like it literally says Seiko. But it's from a guy I follow who does the builds and does the crossover builds. Because there's a whole, again, if you want to jump down another really dumb rabbit hole, the Seiko watches and then the rebuilds and the customization of those, there is a world that exists.
Tune into our watch podcast.
Into our watch podcast. Oh, the Watch House.
That's actually that's
our sideshow.
We need to get that off the line. I think I'd love to. Horology hour.
Well, I think if you were to compare, if you were to say that a Casio is like wearing a Royal Oak, an Audemars or Royal Oak, because that's what they look like. They look like an AP. It's like comparing a BBSLM to a Work VSXX. They're very similar in design. VSXX is worth about $4,000 less for the exact same design. Still both quality wheels, but Casio's a great watch as a beater. Awesome beater watch. You can wear it. Like
Mate, that's what you need.
I wore one to Summernats. I just got back from Summernats. I wore a Casio. I'm not wearing a Royal Oak there.
Mate, I've got to tell you, as somebody that likes nice watches and has a couple, I wear a Seiko GMT as my daily nice watch.
Awesome watch.
Cost me $800. I think they're even cheaper now. You can beat the fucking shit out of it, and it still works. And it's got a GMT, so whenever you're traveling, you can do multi-time zone.
Great
and
watch.
I think today I'm wearing a G-Shock.
Also a great watch.
Mate, unreal watches. Like a couple $100. And, mate, these things will last lifetimes.
Yep. I love them. I love Casios. I love Seikos.
They're unreal. Casios and Seikos. And that new Seiko GMT, props to that. If you haven't held one, had a look at one.
How about the Grand Seiko, though?
10 out of 10.
Oh, God, let's stop.
I didn't...
Look,
I've fallen down the Grand Seiko rabbit hole as well. I was like,
love 'em.
are you fucking serious? What the fuck is this? And then I got speaking to people about it.
No, they are top-notch watch.
Incredible watches. And they just don't have the brand acknowledgement.
Well, they're not in that Swiss...
in that space. We did just become the watch house.
Yeah, we did.
Look at us.
You're going to
But everyone who's into watches, anyone who has a big watch collection, they all have beta watches.
Yeah, mate, you have to have a beta watch.
Because it doesn't matter how much money you've got. You're not going to wear your cool watch to something.
Mate, when you smash the face of your cool
or your
watch,
platinum
and
Rolex
it costs you thousands of dollars to have just like the fucking bit of see-through replaced.
Also, Scott, we're heading into that time now. If we we talked about car thefts. Watch thefts are on the rise like crazy across the world because that's an easier theft for something of greater value potentially.
You can move bulk money,
right? Very quickly,
similar,
and people in certain cities around the world will stop at nothing to get a watch off you.
Absolutely.
So you don't want to be wearing.
Yeah.
People have told me if you go to London, don't wear a Rolex.
No way.
Right. So, why would you?
Well, funny story. The billionaire in Perth, Lawrence Escalante, he has a mimicked collection for when he goes to Europe of his watches. He has about 12. They're all fakes.
Yeah.
And
Good
see,
on him.
that's
I know a lot of collectors that do that.
I've heard a lot of. So my wife is into handbags, and she has explained that to me as well. Because if you're taking, your Chanel thing out, and they're worth wheel
15K.
money.
Yeah.
They're worth good things.
Yeah.
And it's the same exercise. Like if you spill something on it, or somebody steals it, and they'll have copies of these things so that you can take it out and not be stressed about it.
Yep.
Because it's that same collecting. It's the exact same.
Well, then I have a question for our friend Rory over here.
I know. I knew that was going to happen. I know exactly what it's going to be. I know what it's going to be.
Here we go.
It's going to be what about a
I have a
replica
set
wheel?
of BBS LMs,
Yeah.
and I don't, but if I do, and I had a set of replicas, and I had them on the car.
Oh, no, my beta wheels, but I had real wheels for show.
So what's the beta wheel for?
I keep my real wheels
to
at
drive.
Driving around.
Mate,
Yeah, but what do you do with the real one?
I curbed my
Put them in the
my
garage
schnitzers.
on the shelf, and I put them. I'd bring them to the show. I bring them to your car meet.
Yeah.
And then daily, I'd put the other ones.
It's
on for
actually
daily.
really good logic, but the effort. So having replica watches and real ones, because you don't want your real watches stolen.
Look,
A
it is
watch
easier.
is much. He's taking his watch off.
But it's easy.
But
No,
with
no,
wheels,
like,
you'd be like, all right, just got to
you've
go down
got-
to the house, just got to get the car up on the jack stand, just got to tend to it.
No,
Oh,
just
these
like
tyres are too old.
simple. Swap them over. That's it.
Yeah, oddly, there's quite a lot of watch love in the chat. We really do have a lot
It
of...
comes with the.
It comes in kinds.
the Aspergus
doesn't it? It is, mate. This is a very neurodiverse show and audience. We love the neurokin. Newey loves a Seiko mod.
Yep.
Old Yarn Brewing, who's actually ripping a new batch of beer today. He's actually brewing beer, another wonderful rabbit hole, while following the show.
I wouldn't mind a beer
He's down
podcast.
for a Casio calculator watch.
Oh,
yeah.
That
How
was the OG in
Yep.
primary school, if
All
you had one of
time.
those, or one of the ones with the remotes, so you could turn the TV on and
Oh, I
off.
didn't
and
have
tell
one
you
of
fun
those.
I
with
used
the
to have
teachers.
one of those.
One of my mates had one, and he walked
Amazing.
past and turned the TV on because he was just naturally a bad kid.
I had the one which had 30 phone numbers you could put into it. And it was like, who has made it onto his list of...
Pimping.
Or well,
yeah, right.
whenever you see someone out and about, whether it's at the shops or anywhere, and they've got a Casio calculator watch,
Yeah.
you're just like, it's a man of culture.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
love
is a
one of
man of
those.
culture.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's
In fact,
that's
I'm
another
going on
one
eBay
from the
to
watch
find one.
house. Casio calculator watch. Newey is giving shout out to the NH34 GMT movement.
Yep.
Then also Lando and Leclerc had Richard Milley stolen. Whoops.
Yep.
Oh, they
Off
did
their
too.
arm.
Given that they're quite spicy, if you don't know what they are, they're
Yeah.
about
Carlos
$1
did as well.
million
Carlos did as
plus
well.
bucks.
But Carlos ran after the guy and got it back.
Yeah.
I remember reading about that.
Yeah.
That's
Also,
crazy.
actually,
does
it
anyone
says
know
here-
how to pronounce it? Because I've heard Richard Mill. I've heard Richard
Mille.
Millet.
Yeah, Richard Mille.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Mill?
I think
Mate,
it's
we're in
Richard
Australia.
Mille.
It's fucking Richard Mill, mate.
Yeah,
all right?
it's Dick Millie.
Sainz chased. Yeah, here it says Sainz chased someone down and got his watch back. Yeah, so we got that in the chat there. So we do have a lot of watch love here.
Yeah.
The crossover show is actually building up hope. But what we'll do is I just think we just need a horology segment in here.
Yeah.
Because
Open
I
to
must
it.
say, and if you've seen the Bugatti watch and some of
Yeah.
the crossover stuff, I'm super down with
Oh, really?
having a horology segment.
I'm definitely down for it. I'm very much into the boutique stuff. I don't like the mainstreamy the stuff as much. Okay.
What's
Richard
boutique to
Mille-
you, just while we're down the rabbit
Well,
hole?
okay, so I don't like the
If
Richard
you know the
Mille.
name of it, it's
No,
not
as in he
enough.
doesn't like the elite, like the Richard
I don't like the
Milles.
Richard Mille. I don't like them because one, where's the history of his watch company? He hasn't been around. You know, another one is Frank Muller was big in the 2000s. He was started in 1991, right? So for me, like you've got the Holy Trinity, Patek, AP, Vacheron, right? One of them, Vacheron, is not as on the rappers' names list because they don't know much about them. They're more classy watches.
Maybe it doesn't
not,
rhyme as well. You
Possibly.
can't drop it in a verse.
but they're the longest standing watchmaker. They first started making watches in 1755 and continuously operating the oldest watch manufacturer.
So not
And
as
they
well
make-
known,
Not as well
but
known.
Vacheron Constantins are not cheap.
They're not cheap, but they're like IWC before they went down that Mercedes sponsorship route. I loved an IWC watch.
Well, they were a cool watch. And again,
But now
that
they're
was a...
mass producing again. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
When you would notice
I'd like a Breitling.
those
Yeah.
watches.
The pilot watch.
which is why I'd like the Grand Seikos. I think they're a great watch. Breitling, prior to like the old flight watches from the 60s, 70s, you can buy those vintage.
Cool.
Plexiglass on the top.
Yeah.
Oh, Anyway, we're right.
I also like the Monte Carlo.
Brisbane Vintage Watches. If you're not across that, I think they might be Vintage Watch Co. or something now.
Yeah, so Vintage Watch Co. is
Vintage
a friend
Watch
of mine.
Co. Oh, there you go.
That's,
Ronnie.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I have bought from him before.
Yep.
He's
and
great.
They have serviced my watches as well.
Yeah, if anyone listening is like interested in watches or wants to look at some watches,
safe place.
go on Vintage Watch Co.'s website.
Yeah.
Ronnie's a legend, and Ronnie and Luke are legends.
You will have a good time, and your pockets will be far lighter by the time that you're done. But they get some beautiful things through.
They do.
Yeah, and right now
Now's the time to buy.
Great
Well,
time.
now and getting. I reckon we're going to see worse.
people are offloading watches at a vast rate. So I'm a similar to Jazz. So there's like the real sort of elite watches I'm not massive on. No. I am a big Rolex fan, but I'm not like, I prefer the specialty Rolexes.
Okay.
But I love my APs. I also love my Omegas.
Sky Dweller.
I'm waiting on my Rolex to turn up.
Blueface Sky Dweller, top 5 watch for me.
Omega,
Platinum Blueface Sky Dweller.
better watch than a Rolex. Can always get one, and they're 1/3 of the price, or 1/5 of the price.
You can't beat a Speedmaster.
Mate, my brother,
Seamaster.
my brother rocks a Seamaster,
Coaxial.
Yep.
and like that is a beautiful watch.
Yep.
They're just gorgeous.
The Speedmaster has the METAS certification, which is insane qualification to get,
Yeah.
which Rolex doesn't have. Well, some people
Explain
say
that one to me. I don't actually know that.
It's like a meteor because not okay. So the reason why Swiss watches were so famous was because the government of Switzerland said they have to stamp the COSC, which was the standard they have to go by, like losing only 1 or 2 seconds a day. Omega a couple of years ago took it to the next level and said we're going to go to the meteorological department and go to that level of accuracy.
Well, they're the moon watch.
So yeah, it's called the METAS. If you Google the METAS qualifications, and which made them a more accurate watch than a Rolex for quite a while, and Rolex had to kind of catch up with their movement. The awesome thing about Rolex is that they make their own gold and their own platinum, and that they have their own foundry, so which is really awesome. But you get the pricing for what you get in the accuracy.
METAS certification. Well, actually, Tudor are shouting out that they're doing that.
Well, so they're doing.
Tudor are also a really good entry level watch.
Your problem is though is you have to deal with people going, "Hey, why didn't you get a Rolex?" If you rock a Tudor,
well,
is what I tend to hear.
Yeah, but the people that say that are like, if you were you didn't really understand watches.
If
you would
you're
look at a
uncouth.
Tudor and you'd be like, well, why didn't you get a Rolex? But if you know watches, you can tell a Black Bay.
I'll give you a perfect example.
Here
It's
we go.
like if you were out in Car World and you said, I've just bought a F430 Scud, and somebody comes up, why didn't you buy the SF90?
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yep.
It's what is the latest and greatest you can buy with money versus what's a cultured
That's
option
like
that you
me. I'm waiting on a Rolex, and I'm not waiting to buy it. I'm waiting to inherit it. My dad has a Submariner from the 70s.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
So he bought
Is
that.
it no date window?
No, it's got a date thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no dates are cool.
Yeah, so he's got the date one, but he
With or
had,
without the Cyclops?
not sure.
that's the he's got. I think it would have. I think it would have.
Yeah, I think it has the Cyclops, the magnifying over the date. But he's had that since he lived in Europe, and he was a chef in Europe.
Wow.
Younger than I am now. Him and his brother went and bought matching Rolexes.
back when they were $800.
Yeah, back when they were nothing, and he could afford it on a chef's wages with what they were getting
Great
paid.
story.
So he's had that all his life, and it's like fused to his wrist just about. And that's our family heirloom that'll get passed down to me when he, kicks the coil. But the thing that he's always explained to me with Rolexes is they're worth a lot more money if you've got like the box and all the documentation
100%.
and everything to go with it.
Any watch. Yeah.
So Dad lost, or his box and everything disappeared. You threw it out, or it got lost.
Box
in
and
transit.
papers lost.
All that's gone. So he doesn't have that anymore. But his brother, the watch got stolen off his nightstand, but he still got the box and the paperwork and everything to go along with his watch.
No.
So Dad's like, whichever one of us
Our powers combined.
goes first, the other one gets, the
You
stuff.
won't have the matching numbers.
No,
though. That's the
unfortunately.
downside.
So, but still,
Yeah.
But you've got a great story.
same thing with him is like he gets his watch serviced every year and whatnot. But he found that the bracelets, because Rolex don't call it a band, they call it a bracelet because they're bougie. He finds that the Rolex bracelets, which are a couple of $1,000s each, are no good. They just fall to pieces and and whatnot, they
Back
deteriorate.
in the day, they did, yeah.
Yeah, so what he does is when he goes to Thailand or somewhere like that, he goes and buys like 10 of the fake ones.
Right.
And uses those bracelets because they actually last.
I've done that before.
Really?
Yeah, and buys them off eBay and everything.
Because they'd
like
actually
that.
be made of.
And throws the watch away, or like puts a different band on it and gives it to like they're like, here you go, here's a Rolex.
Well, just on that box and papers story, I managed to find before COVID, because I'm a big Amiga fan and I'm a big Bond fan. Well, I was when I was younger.
Yep.
And Amiga famously was going bankrupt in the late 80s. And they just managed to wing getting a Seamaster on Pierce Brosnan's wrist for GoldenEye. So they were going to do a Rolex, but last minute they said we're going to put it was rebirthing.
Is that the one that's got like the dart in it, or the
not the commercial one,
like
but yeah. So they
movie.
rebirthed they remade the Seamaster in 1993 with the blue wave dial, because before that it didn't have that for a long time. They reissued it, and in '95 it was in GoldenEye, which completely changed Amiga's future. I managed to find a Japanese-bought automatic Amiga Seamaster 300 wave dial, blue wave dial, 1993 mint condition box and papers with the stamp from the dealer in Japan before COVID, and I'm so glad. That's my favourite watch.
Yeah, just quietly, Japan's
that
a good
one's
place
in
to
the
pick them up. I'm actually on Vintage Watch Co right now.
Yep.
And I've fallen off my chair and I want to go and waste some money. Mate, they have a Sky Dweller for $26,900, stainless steel, 18 karat white gold. So obviously not the
platinum.
not the finest.
What's
but
the face color?
Mate, it's a damn good looking piece. It's
like
sort of that
pearl.
Pearl white.
Yeah, I love a Sky
and
Dweller.
circa 2021, 26.9.
Yeah,
Like,
watches are falling.
They're a 40 to 50K watch every day of the week. I have never
dropping.
seen a Sky Dweller at that sort of money.
Watches are tanking. So my all-time
absolutely.
favorite watch is a Speedmaster as well.
Welcome to the watch house.
It's a Silver Snoopy, a 50th anniversary Silver Snoopy.
how
You got
good
one?
are they?
No.
Oh, so that's your one you watch.
that's
Yeah,
my
sorry,
favourite
mate.
watch.
Yeah, that's a great watch. I love the back of those.
Yeah, I love the back of them as well. They were in COVID. They were about 50 or 60 grand, and
correct.
I was like, "Fuck, I'm like, no, I can't buy that." There's some trending under 30.
I'm going to throw this one in the chat. Newey's here saying Sky Dweller is Rolex's most complicated movement. I love the complexity. I love the intricacy, and I love how hard it is to make something that precise, that small in that space.
Yep.
All of it. It's just magnificent.
Well, speaking of straps, here's a good beta watch thing.
Here we go.
So, as everyone may or may not know, Omega did a collaboration with Swatch. Blancpain has actually also just done that too.
50 fathoms.
So the Blancpain is called a
50 fathoms.
No. What are they calling the nickname for it? It's like the it's called like the Blanc Swatch or the Swatch Pain or something. And the Moon Swatch is what's called.
Okay, Sharvy's just jumped in. Moon's Watch Uranus.
Yeah. So you get a moon swatch. So they were about $350 new. You probably get them for about $550, $600 now secondhand, unless you can find one new.
But they were 1,000.
But they were 1,000.
Yeah.
The weak part of them is the straps. They came with really bozo straps. They look horrifically bad, and it makes the watch look quite bad. Go on horusstraps.com. Buy really good rubber straps. Horus.
Okay, sorry. Always said something else.
Horus.
Horus.
As in the Egyptian god Horus.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That's all right.
H-O-R-U-S.
Was a bit
Horus
lost there for a
heresy.
minute.
Their straps are not cheap.
I thought
They're
you were
about
talking about
$250.
what you would do for a watch, but anyway.
Can I
$250, $300. Put it on. Moon Swatch. Amazing beater. Amazing.
Can I give you my take on moon swatches?
Yes, please.
Trash.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't like them at
You
all.
don't like them at all.
I picked one up for the first time, and it's literally a 3D printed case.
It is.
It's so cheap and light. Like, I've got some great $5 sunglasses here, and they are cheaper than this. It's such a I'd love to have one when they're $300. Well, I can get one for $300.
Yeah.
Right. Just to own. But man, oh man, I'd rather buy. This is the big one. I'd rather just buy a G-Shock or a Casio or a whatever. Right. That to me.
Good Casio could run you about $300.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
well, I'd rather have that. Right. than a
No,
one of
wait
those
till
ones.
you see one with a good band.
Yeah, I've seen people put a moon swatch, the one that looks like a Speedmaster,
Yeah.
the moon or the Mercury
moon,
one.
No, the moon one. Yeah.
Yeah, the moon one, and then the Mercury one is close.
Yep.
But put them on a actual Omega
bracelet.
watch,
That's a good.
and they look really good.
They're an awesome beater. They're anyone who was paying $1,000 to $1,500 for them has rocks in their head. But for under $500, especially if you can get them for retail for $350 or $400.
I'm going to wrap this up because we've got...
Apologise for everyone listening.
We're hammering in on probably the last hour we've got available of episode 4 of Wheelhouse. To close that one out, Mr. Daniel Sharp would rather have a Dragon Ball Z swatch.
Oh, that's a pretty good watch, but
So-
I'd probably own one of them
So-
with a good bracelet.
That's that one. As we move into our final time here for this show, before our good friend Jas becomes our foreign correspondent, he's jetting.
That's right.
To the UK.
That's right. I'm off to the UK where
To get his car stolen.
yeah,
to get
my
his
car
car
stolen, to
stolen.
pay higher insurance, to suffer in the winter,
It'll be fantastic.
and discuss all the car going on. So I've already a couple of the friends that I've made on the Instagram channel, page that I have you got to come to this car, mate. You got to come to this car, mate. You got to come to this, and
You'll be at Secret
ones that
Meet.
I haven't even heard of, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's what we like to hear.
Yeah, I'm definitely coming.
And
to
you
that.
will be our foreign correspondent.
I'm
coming
gonna
live
come.
streaming from there.
Coming in
I'm going to
live.
come.
Well, this is the best bit because I've figured that we could pipe you into this and we can get these internets working
Yeah,
together.
absolutely.
And Rory and I will be in here at 2:00 in the morning with Gibbo going, it's 2:00 in the morning and you can just punch me in the face.
Yeah.
And you'll be there going, look at this. And we'll just fucking turn your stream off and we're like, see you later, mate.
Yeah.
And technical difficulties.
That's right.
If you thought it was hard getting good audio from 4 mics in the same room, wait until we do it from across the
one,
planet.
yeah.
Honestly, that's actually pretty easy. That part is not as difficult as the other crap we've been doing here. I don't know if I actually got an answer on my BBSRS.
Oh, no,
yeah. If we look at the investment, am I on a buy or a sell? Where am I?
I
looking
think
at
it's
on a-
There's no trend
there's
with wheels.
no trend.
Well, because of
there
quantity.
is,
So
but-
my thoughts is like before COVID, you could look up Lamborghini Murcielago wheels, and there wasn't many of those made, but you could always get a set. Now you can't. I think people have bought and holding them, and I think it's going to be a while until we see them coming back on the market. They're just not as common as Rolex try to say that they've got a shortage of watches, but they make 1 million watches a year, literally 1 million watches a year.
There's no shortage.
They're not making 1 million BBS LMs or 1 million.
Well, they still make BBSRSs.
Sorry,
So the
wheels that are not made.
my recommendation for a BBSRS, because finding exactly what you want for them is very difficult, is find a set with a nice face, a clean face, and then just build a set. That's easy because then you can choose the barrel you want. You can go step lip, you can go slant lip.
Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass my phone around because these are the ones that I'm going to have a look at today.
For the E36, right? For the E36.
For the E36.
Oof.
Oh, that's
at
an
the
oof
dish.
from Jas. I think that they've been done quite nicely. He's tracked down correct
Oh
centre
yeah,
caps.
slant lip. Oh, they look good.
They're all the things I've been looking for.
I'd love to.
What spec are they? 16?
Coming off an I don't know. If you click back, you'll be able to find the list.
How do we
of all-
describe this to the listeners?
How do we describe? Do you know what a BBSRS is? It's a how do we describe
BBSRS
in
is
words?
like
It's like a mesh.
it's like the
Paint a
iconic
picture.
meshy BBS wheel that you would see on old BMWs,
Yeah.
80s,
on
90s BMW race cars.
Golfs, all that
And what
sort
would
of
you
stuff.
say that's like a 16 with a
Yeah.
dish?
So yeah, so
That
it's a,
is, yeah.
it's a 15 inch,
15 inch.
15 inch
15
inner
inch centre
with
inner.
a slant lip barrel, which
Yes.
looks like
Chromed.
a bowl
Yeah, like a 45 degree sort of slant,
up to a
chromed
six.
out.
It looks like up to a 16.
Yeah, and then steps up, and then just looks gangster.
So
There is there's a photo somewhere behind you. There's an M6 there that has a correct.
yeah, that's real.
So,
That's a real set.
So their proper legitimate came on the
Jesus.
wheels, and I've wanted a set ever since I saw them on that 1985 BMW.
635.
So yeah, these are
expensive.
actually they're a 16 center.
Yeah,
They've been slanted to an 18, so 18 by 9 plus 11.
plus 11.
That should
That's got width. I got 10s on the back now.
Yeah.
Is that 11 front and back?
yeah plus 11 all round. It looks.
Whoa,
It's going to be hard to
Mate,
steer that thing.
What have they come off?
pokey dokes.
What car did he have them on?
I don't mind your current rims.
On an
your
E36,
Schnitzers.
yeah, but 3-piece BBS RS.
That's the same
BBS
wheel
RS
as what I want on my.
I mean, this is my goat
That's goat wheel.
wheel.
Oh, yeah.
This
I
is
know it
this
is.
is my Sky Dweller.
And they're
of wheels.
man, look at that photo of them.
Yeah, they're
Oh, wow.
tidy.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So on the next episode of Wheelhouse, I'll be able to tell you whether or not, because this is happening today. I'm going to inspect.
Oh,
these.
yeah.
This is happening in real time. This is
So the
Okay.
good thing about it is only very few wheels move, and it's usually ones that have been discontinued or ones that get discontinued and then overhyped by YouTube celebrities.
like us.
T37 SLs or something.
Nah, Blitz Type 03 is probably the most notable one. It's a Blitz's old Japanese brand. They made a wheel, and it's like it's a 5-spoke, but it's a split 5-spoke. They were like $2.5, $3 for years. And now you'll pay like $7.5 to $8 for a set because Adam LZ bought like 6 sets, and then everyone wanted to be Adam LZ or Future.
as well.
Because like they're cool, but yeah, I've just looked them up. They're
Yeah.
like a 5-spoke,
Twin
like
5-spoke.
a Star twin spot. Yeah,
They're a very hot fours type.
Yeah. So some wheels do see growth in that sense, but most don't. T37s are starting to see a rise because they're. If you really want to get nerdy in the car sense about it, the T37 has changed over the years. So the original T37 was magnesium based in production, which was really good in the early 90s, in 1996 when they came out. Not so good in aging. They crack now. So they got discontinued in 2011, and the T37 SL came out. T37 SL came out, was a huge rage. They're fantastic. Still the same concavity as the original, but lost the famous finish, the bronze finish. You can still get the bronze, but it's not the original anodizing. They just got discontinued in 2021 because new cars are so heavy. Volk Racing, or who was owned by Ray's Engineering, have had to re-engineer the T37 to deal with the weight of new cars. And the T37 SL wasn't really meeting the requirements to keep the JAL
with an
certification.
ultralight.
So they discontinued it, and you now have the T37 SL Saga, which has kind of, the Saga series has definitely changed the way a T37 looks. I don't love them. I would never own a set of T37 Sagas.
Yeah, right.
I think the thing with T37s too is sort of what brings their value down a little bit is there is like 60 different variations and styles of the T37. There are all these special edition models, different designs and all sorts of different combinations that you can get a T. It's not just like a T37 is this type of wheel. It's like a T37 is this sort of like production range of wheels, and then there's all these different variations of T37s.
That was in like the 2000s, 2010s. They started
it.
releasing like the T37 Ultra, T37 RT. There's a bazillion of them. But now the T37 SL range, which is like the RT, the Ultra, and all that, they're holding value pretty well. They've actually gone up a little because
classic
T37
shape
is
of
not
T37.
expensive. By not expensive, I mean you could get a brand new set for $4,000. And now you probably pay for a good set of T37 SLs in the right spec, 5-ish maybe.
Wow.
OG ones, like we're talking the 90s, 2000s, in the bronze, in say GDR spec, which is...
I think that's what Josh Botcher still has on his S15. It was because he always ran
OG TUs in GD, they call it GDR spec.
How much are they?
bronze. Yeah.
You probably pay 8 to 10 for a very good set. They're 18 by 9.5 plus 20 or plus
that'd be
15.
Richard Whitfield says the goat wheel is a set of 15-inch teddies.
Oh, Ronald Teddies are phenomenal wheels. There's actually some guy. This is really funny. So I'm very big on like try not to let replica wheels into the display area of my meets because I think it's like a crux point. It's like if I'm gonna put a line in the sand, that's gotta be it. Like to
That's
really
good. I didn't know
differentiate.
that. That's
And a car rocked up to a meet probably 3 or 4 meets ago. It was MX5, and it came in on Ronald Teddies, which is so Ronald are a famous very old wheel manufacturer, and they made a set of wheels called Ronald Teddies, and it was a teddy bear. Was the spokes of the wheel. All of them were in really shit specs. You could not get them in good specs because they were sold for key cars or K cars, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And this guy walks into MX5, and he's got 3-piece Ronald Teddies. And I was like, whoa, I'd never seen it before in my life. I'm like, oh my God. I said to him, I'm like, man, these wheels, 3-piece Ronald Teddies, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, I saw them online. I just had to buy them. And I was like, oh, I can't
much did he get
believe
them
that. Anyway, drive in. And as he's driving, I'm like, man, those bolts look weird, but that's a cool wheel. And then I was like, oh, I wonder if he found. So I just instantly went online. I was like, Ronald Teddy 3-piece to find a set. Bang, there's some guy making them, and they're fake.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you kick him out?
No, this was days later. I'm not on the. Imagine me at the front gate.
Before you come in,
I kind of could though. I could see you checking in real time. You'd be there with like your Google Lens or something and going, bow, bow.
It's really hard, especially my new location, because the cars meet me almost very dead center. It's hard for me to stand. I don't know if people wouldn't have noticed this, but at the previous spot, I would stand off to the side and then walk to their doors because I can get. And I can pick wheels pretty fast.
Yeah.
I've been looking at them for that long. But now I'm dead center. Sometimes I'm like walking. I don't want to noticeably look.
Yeah.
So I'm walking to this, and I'm like, there was an R34 that came in, and I was walking towards it. I'm like, man, it sounds really grumpy. It's got like sort of the right. It had like it was an R34 GTT with GDR kit and wing lifters. I was like, sounds really grumpy. So it's got engine work. I'm like, I can't see the wheels. It was a black car with black wheels. I was like, I'm just going to have to let it in. And as soon as he went past, he turned the wheel and I saw the wheels. I had fake T37s.
Oh.
I was like, but I'm not like, I'm not going to go get him and tell him.
No.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I want you to though. I want you to have like the like. There's got to be somebody dressed up, much like old mate in the red hat at Summernats. That just goes up and he's the wheel police.
Yep.
And he's just ejecting people, like just throwing them out.
Get out. Yeah. No, there's I'm a one wheel manufacturer. I get a bit of heat for it. Probably the most of all, because I'm very staunchly against them, is Koya. They've changed in years, obviously, but their whole business is built on fraudulent activity. So I just don't like them. And RS3s are notorious. Audi RS3s are notorious because 50112. So finding wheels is a little bit difficult. And a lot of them were on Koyas, and I was just always parking them out the back. And I jokingly started saying to people that I've wholeheartedly changed the RS3 game because a few started rocking up on BC forged wheels and then T37s. I was like, oh, they're sort of getting it now.
Yeah, I remember. I bought a C63 a couple of years ago, and it came with aftermarket wheels, and I sent Rory a photo of it, and he sends me back as heavily zoomed in, just with this wheel centerpiece, and it says Koya.
I was like, what the fuck's that?
And that is the man
Yeah,
that I
exactly.
that's what I expect.
Yeah, didn't care about anything
That's
else, but it had a
amazing.
set of Koyas.
Yeah, and it was just like
rubbish.
Koya have definitely changed in years. They're making some I think they've got some pretty good quality production going on there, but they still do and still make their replica wheels, and they're extremely replica copies. I could name so many wheels that they
Really?
copy off, and
It's
they do
rough.
this process that they call
They weren't allowed
semi-forging.
to. Oh yeah.
And I was like,
What's semi-forging?
what the? How do you
It's either-
half
it's either
forge
Well,
something?
that's
forged
called
or not. Right?
half-assing.
Yeah.
What, do they just forge the center and not the barrel?
Yeah. Maybe they forged the logo.
Yeah.
Or they just. Oh, sorry. When they say half forged, is that a joke saying like half stolen?
Yeah.
So the forging,
Maybe.
forging was the stealing.
It's forging the
Yeah,
design.
it's that's the forgery. Oh God, they don't have any metalworks. They're just pinching it.
Mind
We've
blown.
figured it out here. We are breaking.
But yeah, I get a bit of
news.
heat because they're an Australian company and that sort of thing, and I get it. But I've always been into wheels. I've always liked them because I think that's probably
We couldn't tell.
it's the most crucial element to a car.
Look,
Yeah, no,
you're
it is.
personally responsible,
can
I
change.
think, for improving culturally in Australia, people valuing these things. I truly believe that you are personally responsible for changing a lot of minds.
Because a lot of people, it's just one of those things where I'll meet someone like, I don't hate people if they have replica parts. I don't care.
Yes,
I
you
don't
do.
care that heavy. I
No,
do.
we know you do.
It angers me. But
You
when I
judge.
meet someone, they'll be like,
Seething.
"Oh, hey man," like, and I'll be like, "Oh man, like, yeah, your S14's sick. What's those wheels?" But like, it's straight there, and they're like, "Oh, really?" Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh man."
Well,
come on."
the one thing I love is that like rotor wheels came out as replicas of Rays, and everyone was like, "Oh, they're replicas, don't run them." Well, then rotor, because they were making so much and selling so many, actually became a legit wheel brand. Like they have designed and make their own wheels now.
Yeah, right.
But now there's replicas and fakes of rotors.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So it's kind of like Inception, where it comes
Yep.
like to the fakery of wheels. Like the fakes are now getting fakes made.
Well,
of
you
the
got
fakes.
you see people selling wheels for so the Rotor Grid is the infamous one. It's the T37 copy.
Yeah.
And you see people selling wheels on Marketplace, and they're like, they'll post up some weird looking wheel, and they're like, yeah, Rotor Grid copy. I was like, man,
It's a copy of a
Copy.
it's a Rotor Grid copy of a Rotor Grid copying a T37.
And
It's like-
before
it's
I
like
wind
when
this
you,
because I'm going to start pulling this one back in. You can finish your point here, Gibbo.
Yep.
I was going to say, it's like when you get you do a photocopy of something and then you take that
photocopy
photocopy
the
and a photocopy.
Or the old cassette tapes.
Yeah, and the quality like starts deteriorating further and
It's
further
edgy.
and further.
Before we wrap it, I'll
The-
just
the
say,
degradation,
I'll
please.
precipice it. The reason I became so invested in wheels and so obsessed with it is in 2014 I used to go to the US every year for SEMA when I was running downshift. I was always quite a proponent of genuine wheels, but not like as overtly as I am now. Got the chance to tour the HRE wheels factory. And they've always been, as much as everyone thinks the T37 and Ray's Engineering would be my number one, HRE are my number one.
P101, my favorite
Yep.
wheel.
And I got to tour the factory and their manufacturing, and it was a game changer for me, my mentality. I was like, holy
There's a reason why they're 15
This
grand a
is
set.
why this is why their wheels are expensive. This is like why they're so angry about people copying. They were so passionate about wheels, so passionate about what they do. Their manufacturing process was so phenomenal. Like they're really pushing the boundaries with carbon barrels and 3D printed metal designs.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
and when I got back from that, I was like very headstrong on genuine wheels because I've met the HRE owners, I've met the executives. Like they're all like just people like us. Funny
that are just mad for
funny quid pro quo. HRE is Hayashi Racing Enterprises.
I didn't know
Hayashi
that.
Racing is the Japanese, like the original Japanese brand that made the Sakuras and the Star Sharks.
Really?
Yep.
Have you been down to the factory in Geelong that makes all the carbon wheels for?
Carbon Revolution.
Yeah,
No,
for
I'd love to go
Ferrari and for the GT350R.
Love to go to that.
I would love to see that.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, good thing we're a media enterprise now, and we can.
Yeah,
try
Carbon
and arrange
Revolutions.
these things. Carbon Revolutions. Now, look, I've got a quick one here. And this links all of our things back together to close this out.
Let's go.
On our wheel investment strategy, there is a strong uptick. OO's Sexspec wheels.
Yes.
There's
AME Model Arts.
Mate, you bring your Model Arts. If you've got
Big
some
chromies.
Gestolts, if you've got some, Richard Whitfield put me onto this. He's like, these bad boys are trending hard, and people are blowing the dust covers off their 20-inch chromes.
That weigh half a ton each.
They're in. We're gonna be seeing spinners like the year 2025.
I always wanted
Real
a
ones
set
are
of
probably
spinners.
expensive.
Spinners are coming back. I
Need
can
for
feel
Speed
it in my, I
Underground
can feel it
too.
in my bones.
It's one of those things that's
So-
not made anymore. That's probably why. Because
Yeah.
no wheel company makes.
So there is a buy in the Wheelhouse investment strategy.
We'll set some funding
Yeah.
aside for
does
a
that
set of
mean
spinners.
H2 Hummers are coming back to?
One just sold on car sales for collecting cars. Sorry, for good money.
They're
It's like
rare.
70 grand.
Get out of
They
town.
were
Yeah,
junk.
is that the
junk.
army one?
No,
No,
there
the
was a
other one's a
H2.
H1.
Oh,
That's the actual one. The H2 was the one they made really
What I'm
big.
scared about is a rabbit hole because I want to start talking about the Nissan crossover ones and how you can
Yep.
make,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, sure.
But what I really want to do is Rory's been at the greatest
Oh no.
festival of Bogan, Summernats.
Ah, the summon.
Controversial Summernats.
It's been a very controversial Summernats.
There's a lot to say about
There
that.
is a lot to say.
I completely forgot
EPA shut it down. People chucking skids out in the street. Police basically saying you're a bunch of fucking Neanderthals
Yeah, right.
on
I lo-
ABC.
I
That was the
love-
wildest
I love
comment. By
that.
that. I don't know if you saw that.
I
Absolutely,
didn't
like
see
saying
it.
that they are devolved, unevolved, and I mean, like
This cop came out and said that if they
throwing
put an
shade.
IQ test on the border, they'd have more success in reducing attendances than if they put like a car.
Wow.
Yeah, but he's like the people that attend Summernats have not evolved; they've plateaued. He
Oh.
said that on live
Oh,
TV.
TV, and I'm there going, I'm going, in this woke world that we live in where you can't say anything bad about people, well, you can say people are a bunch of fucking morons and that's okay.
He pulled no punches in that
was
press conference.
And
great.
interestingly, there's no outrage associated with that. So I'm outraged.
Nobody cares.
That Bogans...
Everyone's like, yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are. You're like, you're right, mate. Then they're like,
Good observation.
banging fucking beer cans into their heads.
Fighting security.
I'll throw it out there that I fucking loved what a debacle Summernats was.
Yep.
Because where every other event, I mean, Bathurst, you used to be too scared to go up the mountain because your car would get fucking flipped and set on fire.
It's pretty PC up there now.
Mate, up there now, you take your
changed.
kids, it's all very pleasant, and I'm glad.
Nobody's burying cartons of beer up there anymore.
There's no good reason to go to Canberra.
No.
Except Summernats.
Except the war
Actually,
museum.
look at it. The War Memorial is extraordinary. I loved it. I loved it. I love the chaos. I don't agree with the stupidity, but I love that it's true to what it stood for.
Yep.
Rory, how was Summernats?
So it's my second time going to Summernats. So for those listening who aren't culturally Australian educated, Summernats is a yearly event in Australia. It was Australia's largest modified automotive pilgrimage. The F1 is the only Australian event that draws more people to it than Summernats. And it's been running for 36 years. Well, actually, 37 technically, but they missed one because of COVID. So this was Summernats 36. So it's been there for a long, long time. Staple of the car scene here. And it is quite notorious and always has been notorious for being very unruly, is probably the best way to put it.
Unruly is a lovely way of saying it.
And it hasn't really ever improved. It's like they've never really been able to improve the fact that it is extremely unruly and quite wild and raucous. And now it's gotten to the point where Summernats is so big. We're talking this year, the rumour is that it was 145,000 people attended.
That's a crazy numbers.
4 days the event runs, 6 days for the entrance because they got to go scrutineered. And brought into Canberra over $35 million in revenue, which means that now Canberra cannot actually financially get rid of it. Because it
has nothing else.
It has nothing else going on. It is bringing in more to tourism than almost. I think it's equaling the snow season.
Well, that's it. Because there's no events there. Like we went there to go and take our boy to Parliament House and take him to the War Memorial,
which is awesome. Yeah.
And the only thing I wanted to do, I was in my 60 Series Land Cruiser, so I got my wife chucked around on the lawn because there's like people with machine guns there.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To stop.
Yeah.
So I just chugged past so that she could get the photo of the Land Cruiser right in front of Parliament House.
Nice.
That's the pro tip. But aside from nice gardens and then bunny rabbits all up the main street,
you go to Canberra to stop in for fuel on your way from Sydney to Melbourne.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I certainly don't think of Canberra as a car cultural hub. It's a big roundabout of a city. There, but I mean, it really shat the bed this year. Like the EPA shutting it down for the pollution, the haze. If that was correct, because I was following the news.
I didn't hear about it. No, I didn't get. It didn't get shut. They closed. I think the EPA were blowing up about it, but they closed. So it's held at a place called Epic, which is called like Events Precinct International Canberra or something along those lines. And it's this massive facility which has like a lot of halls around it, some camping grounds, and then it's got a big stadium. So the halls are used for what Summernats has called Top 60, which is all like the very exquisite builds. We're talking like 100, 200, 300 million dollar car builds in there. And then you have the camping grounds or scattered around, some vendors. The big stadium up the back is where Burnout Masters is held. Australians have made a sport out of doing a burnout, and it is an impressive sport to watch. So they've actually made it very serious. And then you have this, it's like a service road that goes around the facility that would be used for people to trim the grass and shit. And it's a two-way road, and that's called Tough Street. And then everyone just laps that for the entire event. People are just lapping that like it would be in the, Cavill Avenue or Bell Street.
In the glory days of
Chapel Street.
Anywhere where there was a lapping culture on a Friday night.
So that's what it is. And it's that culture has stayed. And you're not allowed to do a burnout on Tough Street. You're
Right.
just allowed to lap it. You can do a little skid and maybe produce a little bit of smoke, but nothing crazy. You can't get into it. If you do, you get kicked out. And so people get Thursday and everyone's just like milling around. Everyone's trying to get you to do a skid. No one does anything. Friday, everyone's a bit more toeier because we've been on the beers all day. Saturday rolls around. The event is also on the Sunday, but no one cares about Sunday because most people are going home. So Saturday's all good. It's normally the hottest day, and it gets to midday, and that's when they start selling full strength drinks. It's only mid-strength before midday.
Yikes.
So you get to everyone's already been drinking, and then they get to midday, they're drinking heavier. You get to about
dial it up.
get to 3 p.m. We got daylight savings, so 3 p.m. is actually more like midday sunlight.
Yeah, right.
And every year I've been
good
twice,
drinking weather.
and every year it kicks off, and the security and the police cannot do shit.
No.
I've never. The best part about Summernats, apart from people watching, because you see Neanderthals, and the top 60 hall and the Burnout Masters, the best part about Summernats is you will never probably witness, unless you're in a war zone, seeing security and police be so like underpowered and uninterested in trying to get involved.
Oh, so they're actually uninterested. They're not even trying.
They're just like, no. They try and like they walk down Tough Street to try and because they still find people for drink driving and stuff on it, and there's just shit getting thrown at them and people jump on the walls.
Wow.
And then
It's crazy.
They
Search it on
shut
YouTube.
it down because of the fight. So if everyone had seen, there's security there this year. They hired some big boys. All the security guards were like 6'5" and
Yeah,
above,
monsters.
all Islanders.
Yeah.
Proper.
You know the guy that walked up to the windscreen and punched that guy through the window?
Yeah. There was also some actual fights like between
right.
security and that.
And-
I'm on the security side. They've been there for 3 days getting
Yeah.
abused. They were over it. They just wanted to start swinging. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
and look, I'm with you because
those
they were
boys
getting
some
beer
boxing
cans
contracts.
thrown at their heads too. Like
Yeah.
it was not nice, and you could see that it's on the edge of riot. Like it's
And
danger.
then the security started swinging, just knocking people out.
yeah,
And
The-
that was about 50 meters down from
big
where we were.
haymakers.
The-
These were not trained fighters. This
Wow.
was like
But in saying that, like security, where they have security scattered all around Tough Street, so there's no point where there's none. Where we were, there was security, probably 3 guys, legends. They were funny as, they were hilarious. They were getting into it, letting people they'd pretend to look away while someone does a skid, and
that's the vibe.
we'd be getting up them.
Yeah.
Like if they'd stop someone do a skid, everyone would be chanting,
You'd be like,
bullshit, bullshit. And they'd like throw some water at them or whatever.
Glory days.
But then they'd come at you and be like, what are you doing, mate? And you're like, oh, sorry, just having a bit of fun. And they were cool. Down further, I think some people took it a little too far. And security were like, fuck this, let's just go. Like, let's have a swing. And then the cops and the event shut Tough Street down, which then shut the event down because if no one's cruising, everyone just goes home.
Right.
Which then overflowed into Braddon. Because if no one can cruise...
Oh, so that's what happened. Because I didn't understand why there was such carnage in the actual.
So what they do...
Neighbourhood.
Last time I was at Summernats, which was 2018, Lonsdale Street, which is it's like Canberra's Queen Street
It's
or
like
James
a
Street.
cafe street.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it-
That's
lots
where
of-
you were videoing a lot.
Lots of bars, lots of that.
Yeah.
That was open, and people were driving up and down that all night, and it got really rowdy in 2018. Like it basically became Tough Street. Essentially, there was people doing skids and stuff. They now shut it down. You can't. You have to apply for this thing called Fringe Festival or Braddon Festival, and you apply ahead of time. You get given. They send you out the passes, and then you're allowed to park your car in there, and you can drive in it. If you don't get that, you can't enter. They block the streets off. So they kind of like restrict it. Becomes a street party. And it was this year was in. I couldn't. The amount of people was absolutely insane. There was so many people at Braddon Festival. I've never seen anything like it. Those businesses there, the bars and all that.
Oh,
I reckon they were making
pumping.
the same money they make in that weekend, probably for 6 months of the year, almost the rest of the year. They were literally printing cash.
Yeah.
The petrol station. When I say to you, it had nothing on any of the shelves in any of the fridges or shelves.
Wow.
I'm not joking. There was like only raspberry flavored pump bottles left. Like the petrol stations, not
Just
petrol alone,
Sold out of everything.
cranking petrol.
Well, they make their money in the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And if they're selling that
Your
out,
$5
that's...
drinks.
Petrol, they were getting petrol tankers every day to the petrol stations
To keep the things full.
because there's
Wow.
Summernats limit car entrance to 2,500 cars, and that doesn't include people who just drive down
Right.
to not enter
watch.
Summernats.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
So there would have been probably almost 4,000
Yeah.
cars that have
You could
influx.
easily, because how many? What did you say? 135,000 people.
145,000.
145. Start doing the numbers on that.
Yeah. And then so all the bars were saying that they were freighting in alcohol daily from Sydney because that's how much they were going through every night. Like the queue ups for the like celebrations, bottle shops and all that they were only letting like 15 people in the shop at once because they didn't have enough staff, and so the queue was out to the street, and everyone's just walking out with hard solo cartons and beer cartons, and then you put it in your car and you go into Summernats. I don't know if it's BYO or not, but we were just driving in with cartons every day. Yeah. And it's insane what it does, but because of everyone getting kicked out of Summernats on the Saturday, Braddon Festival was much more raucous on the Saturday night. Okay. And they created, so Lonsdale Street was blocked, but up on the back, there's another main street that's up near like a park.
Yeah.
They created Tough Street up there, and there's just wall-to-wall people, and there was normal Canberrians, like Canberra people driving through. There was one like P-plated girl in a Hilux, and the guys are in the window being like, put your foot on the brake, put it in, and getting her to do a burnout. And we were pissing ourselves laughing, and they were like, trying to get this rotor to do a burnout, this rotary. And he was like, he did a little one, and I was laughing. I turned around, there was 4 cops behind me, and they were just like talking amongst themselves. And there's literally people doing burnouts because they couldn't get...
Yeah. You couldn't do it. And if they tried, and if the crowd turned...
I saw some videos of a large group of cops. Someone did a skid in that same section. It must have been a bit further up. We didn't see it. And the cops were trying to walk through, and the video was of someone behind the cops, and the cops were trying to walk through a wall of probably like 5 or 6 people. And the cops like, excuse me, mate. And these 3 guys turn around and are like, nah, mate, you're not coming through. And the cops are just like, okay. Because they're outnumbered, like probably like 10,000 to 1. And they're just trying to...
It's dangerous.
Like pull it in a little. Yeah. And then you have old mate blowing up about like the people and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But you can't do anything because like half the businesses in Canberra, the apartments, it's like schoolies. They charge through the roof.
Imagine what they would do.
The money they would have made.
Whatever the cost is.
What we paid for, it was like the most expensive accommodation I've had for a shithole.
Yeah, and you're there going $5,000 a night for something that's usually $200.
So we were there for 4 nights because a friend of mine took some cars down. We were there for 4 nights, and we had 2 rooms, and each room slept. There was like 5 of us, and it was like 5 beds in each room. So I think there was 8. One room was a bit smaller. For the 4 nights in Canberra, we were staying at like it wasn't a nice hotel because there's not that many nice there. It was $500 each.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
fuck.
500 for each person.
Each person.
Hang on.
No, total.
Total.
I can't
still
do
a lot.
that.
That's a lot.
500. What did you say?
You said there's 8 people.
So there's 8 people for 2 rooms.
So $4,000.
Hang on, I have to use a calculator.
So it wasn't per night. It was $500 total.
$4,000.
So essentially,
2 rooms.
you were there for 4 nights.
Yep.
$1,000 a night.
Yep, for 2 rooms. $500.
That's a lot of money.
Holy shit!
And when I'm saying it's not a nice hotel, it was like a rundown mantra.
Just basic.
Rundown. Mantra itself is bad. Yeah. It's a rundown mantra.
So that's what I'm saying. So they ramped the prices up.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Well, if they've got to deal with your shit as well, I mean.
Exactly.
And if you want to say that,
so
145,000 people went to Summernats. That's ticket sales.
That's a lot of people.
The season pass is $160. Most people go for 4 days. So how much money is Summernats making?
Yep. There's no way they're not shutting that down.
No.
Money talks.
Yep.
Would you like?
So the cops can, and the funny part, I don't know if you guys seen the edit. That cop who is going on about everyone being Neanderthals and plateauing. Yeah. Have you seen the edit where he's talking? And they turn it into a song, and it cuts. It cuts, and there was an incident on the Saturday night where a cop was trying to pull someone over, and the cop car got T-boned by a tram. And there's all this footage of this tramp cop car, and he's like, I think these people have just plateaued. They're not very bright. And then it cuts, what are you doing, mate? You can't park there. And it's this T-boned cop car on the tram line, just fucked.
I do love a bit of you can't park there. I did go up Mount Nebo the other day, and I spotted an AU Falcon, sadly, that met its maker down the side. And all I could think as I drove past a car down the side of a cliff was, can't park there, mate.
Yeah. There's been a lot lately of like SUVs that are not SUVs trying to get on the beach.
On the beach, yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Oh,
the Porsche
Cayenne?
And then he pans over and there's one of those new Silverados or whatever they are. And he's just there flooring it on the sand, and the car's just, as he's flooring it, the car's just going beached.
Beached, yeah.
Like,
Stuck.
Excellent.
But have you been to Summernats?
I've never been.
I've not been either.
I'll be honest. That's
I don't
one
know-
of those.
I don't know
That's
if I
one of those
wanna
events
go.
that I'm slightly terrified of
I'm
because
terrified.
I'll be honest. I'm probably a Neanderthal, and
It comes out.
Right.
it comes out, and that's something that I sort of try and keep to myself. I don't necessarily want to be part of the problem.
Not a very media friendly persona, that I would imagine.
Mate, it's Frank the Tank. I mean, and that bloke's a loose unit. He does not make wise decisions.
It's wild. Like, so the funniest part about Summernats is first year where we've done the lapping, because last time we just went as spectators. And this is the first year we've done, and it is honestly, you know how you have like the G ups, like your friends G you up to do something stupid in a car.
Yeah.
I have never witnessed it as violent and raw as Summernats. It's one of the funniest things ever. So my mate, he took down a Mazda 1200 Coupe, which is an R100, but an Australian one, so it didn't come with the rotor. But it's got a 13B now in it. NA, a cool little thing,
The one
like
with
real
the
grumpy.
no leg room in the back?
No, that was a Datsun 1200 sedan
Okay.
with a 600 horsepower SR in it with a Glide,
Jesus.
9-second car. So we took those down, and you're driving through Tough Street, and there's either side, there's 2 lanes,
just walls,
and
of
there's
people.
walls of people, and they're just yelling at you like, "Come on, mate!" And they just, if you come to a stop, they just start abusing you, and the stuff they come up with is almost genius, to the point where
You
when
have
we're
to.
on the wall yelling at people, you can see the guys like driving the car being like, "I know I'm not supposed to skid, but fuck, I want to do a skid." Like, you can see
good. You can see
the
the
cogs
mental
twisting.
battle.
And I was in my mate
That's
Wade's
amazing.
Datsun, this 9-second one. It's got a big parachute on it, big beadlock wheels, like
Wow.
tough car. And we pull up, and this guy's like, "Come on, mate, do a skid." And we're like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." He's like, "What the fuck's the parachute for then? Put it on the trailer."
Good bird.
Yeah. Oh man, and so we G'd this Dodge Ram up, this big Dodge Ram, to do a burnout. He did this is one of the funniest things ever. Did a massive burnout. He's coming past, and we're like, all the people are yelling like, "You're a sick mother." And then as the smoke starts to dissipate, we notice he's towing something. He's towing Victor Bray's drag car, and he's just done a
Oh
massive
my
burnout,
God.
and while towing a car down Tough Street, and Victor Bray's car goes past, and he's like, as soon as Victor Bray's cars like got to hear these other 2 guys who are with us and be like, "What are you doing? Your mate's just done a better skid in a ute." And he's like, "I'm getting towed. Like, I can't do anything."
Can't even do it.
But yeah, you see it, and then it gets to Saturday, and people have been abused. Like, it's extremely political. Like, people are just getting annihilated in the car. Like, it's don't take a clean
too
car
much.
down Tough Street.
No.
They're throwing water in the car and stuff like that.
yeah.
It's wild. If you've got a girl in the car, she's
Dude,
getting
yeah.
harassed.
It's-
Yeah, harassed.
And this is the thing. You can see where the Neanderthal comment comes from, because it's not.
But it comes over
it's
you.
Not
like,
the
it's like,
finest
it was
behaviour.
coming over me.
Yeah,
Well, it
you were
is.
yelling. That was you yelling.
You're there getting
You're
a
gonna turn
Southern
into a
Cross
Simmons Wheels
tattoo.
fan soon.
You're growing a mullet.
Yeah.
You're shaving your beard into a moustache.
It's
Mate.
wild. It's the funniest line I heard. All like these 2 guys in front of us, they weren't like our mates. They were just, we were cracking up. Every car that had come past, if it had a chick in it, and this one dude would yell, and he'd be like, "Skids or tits, I'll put her on a fucking trailer."
Oh,
And you're just like, you couldn't just help but laugh. And I'd say 98% of people lapping Tough Street are cracking up. They're absolutely
Yeah.
loving
Just
it.
wetting
Every now
yourself.
and
You
then
know
there's
it's
like
all
your Sydney
banter.
Lebo, and they'll start to arc up. There's a few times where people will just get yelled at, and then they'll like hop out of the car because they're just getting abused. Like, you're getting called every word under the sun if you don't do a skid. And the staunch guys will hop out of the car and be like, "What'd you say?" And there's just
The bum bag crowd.
600 people being like, "Get back in the car!" And they're like, "Oh."
go. Did you see Cronulla? We'll show you what. You're like, oh god, just stop. And that was. I actually saw people making the comment, and I saw somebody that said I was at Cronulla.
Yeah.
They're going, Australia,
Yeah.
and then they saw it turn, and they said the
Right.
speed that it went from.
That's Summernats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how quickly it goes wrong, and then how exponentially it goes wrong. That's that. And you can see this is why the police and security, like, they're just terrified.
As soon as one person kicks it off and does a big skid on Tough Street, everyone just piles over the wall, like runs up to the car. And it's this, the funniest part is like, everyone's still a car enthusiast. So when someone does a skid, there'll be people on you're not supposed to stand on tough street, but there'll be people there. But most cars, when they skid, they kick out.
Yeah, of course.
And it's like pass the parcel. And so if they do it, you're
you
pushing
push 'em back.
the quarter panel and you
Yeah.
push the car down. And so he's just doing a skid and everyone's pushing him off the wall.
Yeah.
And you're just getting belted in the face with rubber. Look, it's an event I think is not going to survive forever.
No.
I'd say it's like Isle of Man.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's
In the sense where it's going to eventually die.
there's no way.
People probably you need to experience it once just to see like
The levels.
the lunacy.
The
It is-
chaos.
the Braddon Festival is now what I would recommend because I'll tell you
Right.
what, go on a Braddon Festival, which is just where the cars are lapping the street. We managed to get a table at this fried chicken joint, really like probably one of the best fried chicken burgers I've ever had. Really good food. They were licensed. We had alcohol. We had a table on the sidewalk next to a footpath crossing, and we were just watching, like, just sinking beers and sinking drinks all night, watching tough cars just lapping up and down, people just milling around. It was just cool. What I'd be like, oh, look at this Falcon, or there'd be like those Lambos and stuff, and be like, oh, look at this car, that looks really good.
10 to 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're watching it. Don't worry, mate. I got this.
Yeah.
I know you're not driving today, so you're sort of still feeling that
I'm out of my normal
responsibility.
seat.
Yeah, exactly.
I know. I've booted you out. I actually
You have.
I don't
But
mind.
I
the
would
place.
spot.
recommend everyone to experience Summernats at least once,
Part
even
of
if
me
it's not
wants
your
to
jam.
go.
It's
Yeah.
just something to, even if you hate it, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've checked that off. But top 60 hall's pretty special. Next time we do this, I'll put the photos
Yeah,
up.
a couple of photos because I'd love to see because there were things like that yellow VL, which I believe is that Jay DeLuca or the same guy.
Oh,
who did,
Jay
like, the-
Duca's car.
Duca,
I actually
who-
didn't get any
who
photos
did
of it.
the slammed Prairie drift car with
Yeah, right.
So
one
Jay
gen?
Duca, who
Oh,
is
mate,
low
this guy-
standards on YouTube, he's just a phenomenal fabricator and just builds wacky cars.
Unbelievable.
He found a VL at a scrapyard, 5-litre VL. So most VLs came with a 6-cylinder, which is the Nissan engine. Some of them came with a 5-litre, a bit rarer, not as sought after as like a Calais. And he found it. It was just a scrapper. He grabbed it, and then in I think 4 weeks, he turned it from nothing into a driving car for Summernats. But not just that, he slammed it on Japanese race wheels,
Oh, wow.
sequential with a quad rotor in it. Yeah.
Like
Wow.
mental, and
That's
then in
awesome.
canary yellow, so in correct
I'd
VL turbo
love-
color,
I'd love to see
but
that.
on its guts, it's amazing. Gibbo will bring it up for you just so you can pass it round. This car is
We saw it lapping, but
Sensational.
I think he might have had a few teething issues. He got put on a tow truck later in the day for driving
that's-
Braddon Festival and stuff.
that's okay because it was magical, and I really
But the cops in the Braddon Festival, they were still really chill. Like I don't know if you guys saw, I put up a video on my Instagram of a pretty famous VL. The plate's I Hate 3-litre. It's gold with a big chrome
Actually, I
blower
did
at the
see
bonnet.
that, yeah.
And he's going over the crossing and he's driving past, and I pan and then I just film like 4 cops as that VL drives past, full blower out the bonnet, everything massive. That car's not even registered.
Yeah, right.
But the cops are just like, whatever. They were starting up methanol injected, like Mincer is a drag car. It's a methanol Capri drag car. They were starting it up, and he was just lapping Braddon.
that's just
Jeez.
wild.
And I was like, man. And you'd hear it start up. It was 10:20 p.m. at night. I'm in a bar on the beer. That's the VL there.
there you go. You can have a little look.
Jesus. Oh, I love it.
With a quad rotor in it.
And we'll go to the big camera for the people at home. But I mean, this thing is fantastic. This bloke, I mean, this guy is going to be a legend. of
Oh,
the
he
car
builds very
construction
cool
scene.
cars. Yeah, he built a Prairie, which is like an old, old little Japanese SUV. He put an NA2J in it and drifts it.
I love it. We'll get screen at some point.
But yeah, the cops they like Mincer's a full blown car. So it was 10:20 p.m. I'm on the piss in a bar with a bunch of boys. We're just all drinking, just like having a good time, and you just hear this thing come to life. And as you hear like the big supercharger winding, like you can hear it's like the massive cam in it, like ticking over. And I was like, "That's Mincer," and I've run out of the bar onto the street with my phone, and he's like doing a U-turn, and he's like just going down the street.
Jesus.
Trying to drive.
And
on
I'm
the
like, you
road.
don't see this anywhere else.
No.
Far out. Now we are into the final 30 minutes of the show.
There we go.
Because we're at our physical limit. Before we start winding up, is there anywhere else we were looking to go?
I think we were going to try and get to Noosa Concourse, but I don't know if we've got enough time left to go.
We might have to save Noosa Concourse.
Could save me for
Yeah.
concourse, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be offended at saving it. I just want to give everybody an update on my Ford shenanigans.
Yeah.
To be, yes.
Okay,
yes.
this
to be
needs an
continued.
update.
I do, yeah.
All right, so what I've done is, obviously, I spoke about it last time, that I've got a bit of an ordeal going on to bring anybody up to speed who's only just listening. Canada Ford stole some video of mine and continue to use it.
Those thieving
I've tried to reach out. I've tried to reach out to Ford Australia, and I just get ignored. I've reached out to Ford Australia 2 more times. I've been ignored both times. And I Googled the current CEO of Ford Australia. And then I went, you know what, I don't think that's high enough. So then I started Googling their global team, and I've tracked down Eleanor Ford, who is the head of, I think it's customer service delivery, but basically she is the great-great-great-granddaughter of Henry Ford.
She's got the right last name.
Yeah, so she's got the right last name. And then what I've also done is I've now requested global press access to Ford.
Wow.
So what I'm doing, and I think the funniest part is that, you know, I don't think we have a big enough audience at this point where this will cause me too much grief. But what I'm trying to do is just weasel my way in.
Keep it to yourself, everyone who's listening.
Yeah, everyone who's listening, or help me. But yes, I'm going to try and reach out to the great-great-granddaughter of Henry Ford, and I'm just working my way in there. When I mentioned that I was persistent and relentless, I wasn't joking. So look, I really enjoy being able to share this story, and I hope that I'll be able to share an interesting update. But what I'm going to do is, if you want anything done, you can't do it from the bottom up, because I thought I'll start searching for whoever does the social media community management here in Australia. And I thought, hang on, bottom up's not the way to get anything done. Same way as in a business, if you need change, you've got to go top down. And I went, not just head of Australia, because like, who gives a shit about Australia as a market?
Small market.
I'm going to go up to the big cheese and go, g'day. So that's the update on
I thought you were going to reach out to, what's the
Stay tuned.
What's the head of Ford? What's his name now?
Here in Australia?
No,
or globally.
globally.
Old mate who went for a ride with in the monster car.
Yeah, because he seems like pretty public with I don't think I know any other
He's been the boss there for a long time too.
boss of a major car manufacturer who's just like in the public domain all the time.
Well,
Yeah, wow.
I'll tell you what,
You
I'll
don't
hit
hear
him up
that
as
at
well. I will reach out to anybody and everybody. For
Oh,
this
man, I wish you luck with that.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's going to be so funny.
Well, it's just really interesting because, again, as I said, I'm a big fan of the Blue Oval.
Yeah.
You are?
I'm still running their customer service department. I am routinely on a daily basis.
Free of charge, you should add.
Offering, so if you want to follow Canada Ford's posts, I really am helping them here.
Nice.
And their customer service personnel offer just some of the most ripping banter I've ever seen.
I can't believe no one's even reached out to you or closed that off.
Mate, honestly, I must have made 700 comments
Yeah, wow.
on their, like across their posts.
there must be no one looking at
there's
it other
really
than
nobody
like
paying
a
attention.
marketing girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And she probably doesn't want
She
to
doesn't know
market it,
what's happening.
No.
Doesn't know what's happening.
because
She doesn't get
somebody
it.
from customer services on here. I don't need to look at it anymore.
I honestly thought I'd be blocked.
Yeah, I would have thought you would
expected-
too.
Yeah, I expected to be blocked like ages ago. But see, what you have to do is when you don't get blocked, you've got to keep ratcheting it up.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you've got to find
Is this
the
a
tipping
perfect
point.
case of any publicity is good publicity?
I was just about
That's
to say
true.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
I'm,
not all the time. This is a case where it's maybe not all the time.
I'm looking where the tipping point is. I asked AI to write me a rap song the other day, so we've also got that in the works. That I might be dropping some bars about this. I intend to take
You're
this
doing their
too
job
far.
for them.
Look, I intend to take this too far because, again, I'm
This will probably be the story that makes us, but
I'm part
as a
of
Yeah,
podcast.
maybe.
That's right. Yeah. Nothing else.
I'm
Would
Be like, have you
Gunnedah.
guys heard this podcast where this guy named Scott
We're gonna have to get
closed Gunnedah Ford?
we're gonna have to get really up to speed on our Ford knowledge because we're gonna recruit a whole bunch of Ford fans.
Mate, I hope we do. I would love to talk to them endlessly because I drove my big bad Barra E-Series here today. I can't get enough of it.
That's right.
I
So-
grew up in a big Ford family. I'm a big Ford guy.
Mate, I'm a true believer. This is
Love
the
that
thing.
Mustang.
I want to make the power work for us.
That's right.
So I'm very interested to keep continuing this story because I'm really enjoying bringing the real-life, real-time crossovers.
Yep.
Also coming up on the 20th of this month. That should be the week where I may or may not be procuring a 4-door E36 that will become the drift car. And interestingly, the owner of said vehicles, who is also the owner of the V12 E-Type.
Oh, I thought you were going to say V12 E38.
Oh, sorry, V12 E32. My
E32,
apologies, too many E's and 3's.
Yeah.
Has given his blessing to a V12 swap into the E36.
Oh, so our little brainchild from the other week.
I believe he has actually listened to the show.
Right.
Shout out to my dear friend, Mr. Scott Robinson. Yes.
Scott Robinson from Modern Classic Motorsport.
Correct.
Worked on McLaren F1s.
Knows his BMW.
Mate, he got...
Yeah.
Like the guy.
He has quite robust credentials.
Yeah.
His suggestion was V12 into the E36 and then part out the E32.
Yeah.
So you could put a rotary in it.
Could.
Quad rotor. You sell it to Jay.
Yeah, quad rotor it and sell it to Jay. Just put it on its guts.
Sounds like there's a market here.
But speaking of Fords, actually,
Far away.
Scott, you'll probably take more from this than most. At Summernats, the chassis that was easily, apart from the VL, obviously, for reasons, that I could not believe how many there were, XDXEs.
Yeah.
They're so, it's crazy. They were everywhere.
Booming.
They are
It was like
booming.
1986 again.
Oh, I couldn't believe. I was like, what is happening?
Please tell me they had them in that hideous yellow. Like, they're really
That
bad.
was
There was
there
the
was a-
faded
like
blue,
faded,
and then there was a
yeah.
faded
There was a
yellow.
wagon.
terrible
There was a
colours.
wagon in that yellow, but the majority of them were not dungers. They were all
Just
awesome.
pimp.
There was one with a barra swap, which looked really good. There was two with a
They
barra
look
swap.
good. They
There's
do
Can you,
look good.
can you believe that I paid $300 for my XD Falcon and then set it on fire?
Oh, I love it.
After,
you know
after
what
I
it
blew
is?
all the forward end reverse gears
Yep.
and melted the engine.
It's that perfect 80s
You know what they are?
AMG.
Long body Fox body Mustang. That's what they are.
That's true. Yeah.
I didn't come up with that. One of my mates said, he's like, the reason you like them is because they look like a really long Fox body. I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
do.
Actually, they do. They look like a really long notch Fox.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I was loving it.
They're
I can't
great
believe that it must be because that's probably like the cheapest old school Ford now, I'd say.
oh.
I don't know if they're
I think-
cheap
I think the
anymore.
I
I can
thought
tell
that-
you that an ED is cheaper.
But I think that's like as in
Early
old by
90s.
square.
Yeah, but old and cool.
Like square
has,
shape,
correct.
yeah.
It has street
Yeah.
cred. Whereas your ED probably doesn't flex as hard. Oh, just quietly.
Yeah.
Geez, I've got a lot of projects. ED Falcon now has hoist space allocated and talent allocated. So my 3-year project is about to go again.
That's very
Because for
exciting.
people that have missed it, I've also got a 1993 ED Falcon, full-blown grandpa spec, sheepskins, the whole bit. Wonderful car. Bought it to film a commercial, kept it, and then went, hang on, you can throw a turbocharger on these. Did that. Put 4 atmospheres into the engine. Engine didn't like that. Oil came out of everything. Got a Tickford engine off Phil Moonfield, which had been uprated, valve springs, studs. Did an engine swap on the street with our buddy Sean.
Yep.
Yep. So
In the gutter.
big late nighter. We don't allegedly. Then discovered, that all the parts didn't cross over, and then it hit a standstill, and I ran out of shed space, and the shop got sold.
That's right.
That bad boy's coming back.
Excellent.
It's been sitting in a shed for a year as I've been chipping away. Because, like, we've, so Christian Betterway from Sideways, he's wide in a Haltech. Like, we've done everything. We've put battery
I
in
think
the
his
back.
series
We've
is
got-
super underrated though.
Mate, it is an unbelievable car.
Yeah.
Because it is a tank. It is that same size. It is
Yeah.
that extraordinary width. I think it's quite pretty. It's got the XD wheels on it. It's got
Yep.
the mesh XD wheels. It's going to go.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
And this is the thing is I'm not looking for big power out of it. I just want 300 horsepower give or take,
Yep.
really low boost
Yep.
application. But I want it to go in a big grandpa spec car because I'm just all about the sleeper. So ED coming back.
There you
That's
go.
sick.
So huge news.
Huge news.
Can't wait
Huge
to see
news.
that.
Because people have asked me, they're like, what on earth is happening with the ED Falcon? I'm like, well, I don't know if you've ever had a project car, but this thing happens where you go, oh, mate, I'll be able to do that in 3 months. And then fucking 3.5 years later, you still have a paperweight.
Yep.
That's right.
So
That's what I feel is going to happen with my Subaru. It's going to it's going to grow into the ground, unfortunately.
yeah, project cars. We are down to the final 20 minutes of our show.
Yeah.
Gents, do we have anywhere else we'd like to go? Or do we wrap it up early and give ourselves a minute?
Yeah, I got.
Any more watches you want to talk
plenty.
We
about?
got lots.
We got lots more we
And
could
that's
go,
the
but
thing,
not in
is
20 minutes.
we won't ever stop. And that's what I'm thinking is we've probably almost reached a
Yeah.
lovely conclusion.
It's almost a radio show.
It feels like it kind of is a radio show, isn't it? I was thinking about that the other day because I've always wondered how people would do a radio show. I'm like, how the fuck do you go and talk shit for 3 hours?
Well.
Because I think about the people who do those drive shows.
Obviously haven't talked to us.
And I find it incredible because I've always thought of that. And I'm like, yeah, but they've got writers and stuff and they help. Yeah,
They've got advertisements and songs to play.
And songs to play.
It's like, imagine that. We'd be here for like a week filming one show.
Yeah, exactly.
6
We'd
months.
need 24 hours to film our show. I can't believe how easily time flies when we do
we're
this.
talking cars.
And I actually
That's right.
re-listened to the last episode when I was up late tinkering with other things. I can't believe how much I enjoy
Yeah.
our own show.
I feel really bad about it.
I've enjoyed listening
I've listened
back.
to it twice. Have you?
I feel really bad about it. I'm like, fuck, I just listened to myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just listening to us.
It's super weird,
Yeah.
but I get really lost in it and I get really drawn into it. And because I rehear things
Yep.
because we cover so much.
That's right.
And
You have to
I
go back
remember,
and listen to stuff.
listening to the last one, I'd forgotten how much we talked about because I only remembered sort of 3 or 4 points. And I'm like, geez, we didn't really cover much. And then you go and listen to the show and you're like, holy crap, we covered some ground.
That's right.
There's a lot of ground to cover.
There is a lot of ground to cover. There's so much to talk about. And we're going to be back somehow, some way for episode 5. We'll let Jas go and because whereabouts in the UK, mate?
I'm heading it's starting in London,
Starting in London.
and then we're going to see where it goes from there. But I am very keen to, as of after next week, settling in next week, to let's get this back up and running with the UK correspondent.
I really want to. And something else, and I'm just going to do it all live here because, mate, we're just doing this by the seat of our pants. I mentioned to Rory how much I want to do some car review testing and incorporate that into the show.
Exactly.
And I've gone and bought a couple of Rode wireless mics, and I've got a little Insta 360 thing.
Oh, yeah.
So that we can throw a 360-degree camera in the car, put 2 microphones in,
And just talk
and
shit.
then just drive the thing.
I'm leaving at the wrong
swap.
time.
Yeah, no. But what I'm going to suggest is we set you up with the same
And I'll do it.
setup, and then you can do the same thing over there, where you drive the thing, send me the footage back, and we can cut little segments of the things that we enjoy. Because what I really want, and this is just me, I want everything. I want like a fucking 3-cylinder Starlet hunk of shit that cost $100 and a carton of beers, like all the way up to something special.
Yes.
There's no discrimination to me between a 1990 Camry and a fucking
No,
brand new
I agree.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
I want all of it. So
agree.
that's
I think that's was probably one of the main things where I think that people kind of like our opinions is because they know all of us don't. Like, we were just shitting on an SF90 before, whereas a lot of people would just talk about how good it is.
holy grail.
And it's like I would
Nothing's sacred.
1000% own an EK9 Civic Type R over an SF90, ignoring the value because otherwise I'd take the SF90 and sell it.
Of course.
Car for car, I'd take the Civic Type R all day long. If you wouldn't take the Civic Type R, you have rocks in your head. Like, it's a better car.
Or you don't know anything about cars.
It is the
and you only know
Seiko-
about car
the
brands.
Seiko watch of cars. I mean, it's
the Casio
perfect,
of cars.
perfect
It's the calculator of cars.
Yeah.
perfect Japanese.
And the
reliability.
SF90's a Richard Mill.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is.
Yeah, it's meant to tell the time, but you probably couldn't tell the time if you looked at it.
No,
Yeah.
because you're looking at a
Because you're
big,
looking at all the engineering.
shiny skull,
Probably
Yeah,
metric
or
time.
skeleton.
diamond encrusted.
Well, it's purchased for a reason, and
Yeah.
there's a whole following.
There's a
behind
whole
it,
other thing. And look, I've got to say, I really enjoyed adding the watch house.
Yes.
Into
I think,
Yeah,
I think you're.
that
I
was the
think
Watch House
you
pilot.
saying we should
Into
add a
our-
horology thing.
adding a horology segment because we even had on the chat one of the I think it was Richard said that there was a special edition Nismo 400Z watch that there's a lot of this sort of stuff that happens, and I think that there's a gaping hole in the talking about cars and watches.
Yeah.
that we need to roll into
there
our
is-
car show.
car related.
Raise
like,
Engineering do special edition
merchandise and
G-Shocks.
things.
And see, I didn't even know
Like
that.
Volk, you can
And-
get a
cool.
Volk Racing
That's
G-Shock.
cool.
And see, my hero, Mark Arsenal, who's done the illest G-Shock crossovers, like, oh,
Mega.
mate, if we could ever, like, organise
Yeah.
a G-Shock for
Yeah.
our shenanigans and having a
That'd be so
crossover
sick.
G-Shock, like, I would pay money to make that happen.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
so
I don't even need a partnership. I'd just be happy to facilitate it.
just to have it.
Because
Love the idea.
I've talked to you a little bit about this, Rory, in that like you're not a big person on like car brands and merchandise, like the clothing and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. Whereas I love that. I love all the other stuff that a car brand makes that isn't the car.
Yep.
And
Right.
like Ferrari and Porsche.
aftershave?
Yeah, all that stuff. Like I for
Yikes.
off on that. If I was
Really?
going to build a collection of
I think
stuff,
that's disgraceful.
that's what I want to build a
it.
collection of.
Because that's fucked.
I
Like,
love that shit.
me,
that's like the worst shit ever.
I love it.
So I love majority of stuff that I wear.
I love collecting the toys
is
and
car
bits and
centric.
pieces.
Like majority of stuff I wear is car centric today.
Yeah, so
not
is mine.
exactly,
My
but
whole wardrobe is-
It's
is
never
car branded
manufacturer.
stuff.
It's
Yes.
always like
Yeah.
be like Illust or like I have an animal
Yes.
style drift crew or
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah,
be
so-
a World Time Attack.
So's my stuff. I don't have any because nobody's going to rock around wearing a Toyota Hilux shirt
Yeah.
and go like
Big
mate,
Ferrari
fucking
jacket.
sick.
I do have one of them, but big
Push
Ferrari
it.
jacket.
Mate, I've
An
got
old
an-
one.
I've got an Aston Martin racing jacket.
That's
and
sick,
I've
but-
got a Nismo jacket.
I've got an
BMW jacket.
I've got an Abarth
A
jacket.
bath jacket. You
Yeah.
should wear that one.
Please tell me it was for an X19 and not
No,
like,
No, it was for a.
it was for a Fiat 500 Abarth, and I was like, I'm getting one of them because nobody had one,
I love the commitment.
and it was made by Kappa, so it was actually a good quality jacket.
But
Still
I'll
is a
spend
good
spend heaps of money like I've got a original. It actually doesn't fit, which sucks because Japanese sizes are really weird. Like
Oh,
hard.
wow.
Yeah,
I've got an
a
original
large is a small.
HKS racing team, a bomber jacket.
like 1990s one.
Yeah.
Or stop it.
Yeah, like big puffy bomber jacket doesn't fit me, but
Wow.
it's because it was a large, but
It's
Japanese,
Japanese
large,
large.
which
Japanese
means it
Small.
comes to like my
Crop
belly
top.
button.
so realistically, we need it framed and up on the wall.
Which I probably will. I've also got like an original G Ready racing team, like windbreaker. I've got I love all that stuff.
I've got a lot of Formula One stuff. Like I've got all of Schumacher's Decra hats from his '96 to 2000 season.
Wow.
I've got. When I went to the this is a funny story. I went to the 2001 F1 Grand Prix, and at the time I wanted to get an obscure hat, and I was like, "Who is lower down the grid? That's my favorite driver." And it was Jos Verstappen, Max's dad. It was one of my favorite drivers back in the day. So I have a Orange Arrows Jos Verstappen.
Can't
cap.
be that many of
Yeah.
those kicking around.
That's
No.
right. Yeah.
Wrong with Verstappen.
I've also got a Virgin white Richard Branson, which Richard Branson gave to me when he landed for FP1 in 2009 for the Braun story. I was there, standing there. He gets out. He's got a briefcase with him. No, he's got a personal assistant with him. And I said, "Oh, hey, I'm a big fan. You know, all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You're here for the..." And he goes, "Yeah, I'm here to sign a thing." And he goes, "Oh, you're a big fan." He points to his mate, opens a briefcase, pulls out a Virgin hat, gives it to me. And I'm going, "Oh, this is awesome." And then I see him again the next day for qualifying day when they've just put it on pole and he was in a really good mood. He comes over and he goes, "Oh, you've got a Virgin Cup." Forgets that he's given it to me the day before. Thinks that I'm an even bigger fan and signs it for me. So it's just
That's
a good Braun
awesome.
memorabilia. I've got Rubens Barrichello signed as well, but not Jensen. But Formula One stuff, I've got a lot of that. Sort of
See, I
stuff,
couldn't
but not-
ask Jensen when I bumped into him at.
to sign it.
Yeah. No, well.
I think he had a falling out with
Oh.
Richard Branson.
Oh, we'll get him on the podcast.
Yeah. I'll hit him up over Insta as long as he's more responsive than Ford Australia, which shouldn't be hard to beat. Yeah. Considering Shane Jacobson's people have actually come back to me.
I think
True.
anyone is more responsive
so,
than
yeah.
Ford Gunnedah,
Because
Ford Australia.
I've actually been pursuing Shane for nearly a year to come and chat because that man,
Well, it's like long lost family.
mate,
That's right.
not only am I his twin,
brother from another mother.
You guys need to have a DNA test done, honestly.
I
Yeah,
just
it's
need a photo
disturbingly
of us
similar.
side and and then I want to be his stunt double in.
It's an untapped market, Scotty.
Guys, let's
was
wind
great.
this up because otherwise we're just going to keep talking smack.
We
That's
will.
episode 4 of Wheelhouse, and
In
this
the
is
books.
dead set the best time ever.
What's our runtime there, Scotty?
Our run time, 2 hours, 52 minutes.
Oh, so it's
All right, half
3
time.
hours,
So-
which is good.
Yeah, that's still
Yeah,
pretty
look,
good.
I think 3 hours is respectable.
It
Yep.
is.
But gents, thank you. Jazz,
Yep.
safe travels to
Thanks,
the
everyone.
UK.
I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
Are you moving there, or are you just
Moving.
holiday? Oh,
moving.
This is full blown, mate.
there you go.
That's why we had to. That's
That's-
why we mobilised so fast.
That's right,
To
make it
get one
happen.
more in person.
That's the commitment of the Wheelhouse podcast.
Yeah.
We're sending a
It's
man,
global.
Yeah.
our man in London.
We keep talking about how cheap cars are over there and how many are getting stolen. We're
Well,
going
Send
there.
one over.
Yeah. If you're looking for anything specifically, we can put it into a non-disclosed shipping container
That's
going to a
right.
non-disclosed location.
That's right.
We'll have a vehicle sighting service for you soon. Yeah. Buying PPIs.
then our Wheelhouse car security methods.
That's right.
Because
Club locks.
we've got Gibbo here showing you how to defeat
I'll be the
them.
product tester.
So if Gibbo can't get past it, we know it's
We're
good.
good to go.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Rock and roll.
Wheelhouse
Everybody,
Podcast
thanks for
International.
joining us. We'll catch you next time. on
Cheers,
the
everyone.
See you guys.
See ya. Awesome.
Oh.